Absolutely. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July 17th, 2024 Environmental Quality Commission meeting. This is an in-person and virtual meeting with the Environmental Quality Commission members, city staff, and members of the public. So we will start with a roll call. I'd like to introduce staff and EQC members present. In the room, we have myself, Chair Schmidt, Vice Chair McKenna, Commissioners Headley and Roca, Hill, Kissel, Meyer, and Pluger. Staff present includes Sustainability Manager Rachel Launder and Management Analyst. Well, no, we don't have one. We have Liz, Joanna, and Jillian as well joining us from staff for later parts of the presentation.
And Matthew the dad as well.
Oh, yeah, okay. Great, thank you, and welcome. So why don't we start out, Ms. Lunder, would you please provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to share a process for public comment. If you are in person, there are public comment cards that you may fill out and hand to me over on, are they over there?
Did not see that.
Okay, well, we'll sort that out, but we'll have public comment cards for folks in the room. For those attending virtually, if you'd like to provide public comment, you can use the raise hand feature on the bottom of your screen or next to your name, and I'll be able to unmute your microphone. And you'll be able to provide public comment for up to 3 minutes. If you are on a landline, you can push *9 on your phone and I will be able to unmute your microphone. Thank you. I return the meeting back to you, Chair.
All right, thanks. So under public comment, the public may address the commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. While you're not required to provide your name or city of residence, it is helpful. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment, other than to provide general information. Sustainability Manager London, please call for public comment.
Absolutely. If you're in the room and you'd like to make public comment on an item not on the agenda, you could just raise your hand and we can invite you to speak. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand using the raise hand feature. And if you're calling in from a landline, please press *9. We'll give it a second for folks online. Liz, do we see any online? No. Okay, so we'll take the one public comment in the room.
Hi, Brian Schmidt here with Menlo Stark. I wanted to bring to the commission's attention that June 18th, Palo Alto approved putting bike lanes on El Camino. And I wanted to bring it to the attention for at some future point that like people were discussing whether the same could happen in Menlo Park. Seems like that's a good way to hook up bike lanes. And I heard a question about El Camino being a state road. And apparently that was actually at the instigation of Caltrans, which would have some authority to impose it on Palo Alto if Palo Alto had not worked on their own plan. So then the park residents want to think about the same thing. So I think there's some opportunities to work together. Apparently for the plan for Palo Alto is also looking up with Mountain View and other cities further south. So there's a chance to extend the connection all the way on El Camino. So bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Is there any other public comment online or in the room?
Oh, there's one. Oh, not anymore. Wait, yeah, now there's one. No, not anymore. Okay, no.
We'll
No.
give it a second just
Okay.
in case. Okay, last call for public comment on items not on the agenda.
Megan.
We have one online. We'll unmute you now and you're welcome to
Put her hand down.
We'll allow you to talk, Megan, and if you'd like, we can start your public comment now, or we can come back to you. Great. Okay, and if you'd like to make public comment on an item on the agenda, we will have
wanting to
that.
make a learn about tree.
You're breaking
I-
up for us, but I heard
I know.
trees. And the tree item will be D2, and you can make public comment for that one at that time. And that will follow the presentation that staff makes.
She dropped off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can return the meeting to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So, why don't we move to regular business? We have up first, item D1, approving the June 19th, 2024 EQC meeting minutes. So I think, do we want to put those up, or do we just want to see if there's any clarifying questions from the EQC before taking public comment? Hopefully people read them. No clarifying questions. Ms. Leonard, do we have any public comment?
Sure, let me make a call for public comment. If you're in the room, you can just raise your hand and we'll give you 3 minutes to speak. If you're calling in from Zoom, just hit the raise hand button and we can unmute you. If you're calling in from a landline, please press *9 so we can unmute you. And this is for public comment on the June 19th meeting minutes. Doesn't look like we have any public comment in the room
None of mine.
or online. So I return the meeting to you, Chair.
Excellent. Why don't we open it up for EQC discussion and or make a motion if there's no discussion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second. Okay. So please state the motion.
Awesome. Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Headley LaBroca and a second from Commissioner Kissel to approve the June 19th Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes. We'll take a vote now. All in favor? Great. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So item D2 on our agenda is the annual city arborist report. So we are super excited to welcome Jillian, Jonna, and Natividad to make the presentation. So why don't we jump in? Ready?
You can just let me know when next, or do you want to drive the laptop?
I'll let you know when they're ready to.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jillian Keller. I'm the Menlo Park City Arborist. Here with me today are Joanna, our management analyst, and Natividad, our tree supervisor. We're super excited to be presenting the annual arborist report this evening. Excellent. Who presents this first one? Oh, it's me. Okay, great. So to begin, let's provide an overview of our tree division. City staff include 4 tree maintenance workers. There are internal city tree crew, and they mostly respond to emergencies and requests from residents. If a resident has a concern about a city tree, usually Natty will inspect the tree, determine maintenance needs. For instance, it might need to be pruned to correct structural defects. Our city crew performs that work. Our public works tree supervisor, Natividad, myself, the city arborist, and Joanna, our management analyst. We also have tree maintenance contractors. Our tree maintenance contractors, West Coast Arborists, they help us perform 5-year maintenance on all of our city trees. So each city street tree and park tree receives maintenance on a 5-year cycle. But of course, residents are welcome to contact the city and request inspection and maintenance sooner. I also have another contractor that helps me with permit reviews. Their name is Fort Science Bartlett Consulting. And they're a private arboricultural consultant company in the Bay Area. So proudly, the city of Menlo Park is a Tree City USA city. We've maintained this designation for the past 25 years. In order to qualify for being a Tree City USA, we have to maintain a tree board. We consider that to be our tree subcommittee, tree department, have a community tree ordinance. We do have a heritage tree ordinance and a street tree protection ordinance. Spend at least $2 per capita on urban forestry. I think I filled out the application for Tree City USA and did the calculations, and we actually spend more like $12 per capita on street trees, which is amazing. And of course, we celebrate Arbor Day every year with the help of the EQC. And we've also won the Growth Award for the past 9 years, and we've done that through demonstrating a higher level of tree care and community engagement. Next slide.
Hi, everyone. So hello, everyone. I am going to highlight a few of the developments we have had in the past fiscal year with the new hires. In the past fiscal year, we hired 2 new members of the tree crew. Also to meet the new ordinance requirements. In the past years, we have obtained new electrical equipment, which are 2 different types of chainsaws, sizes, and blowers as well. I'm so glad to report that we have had 2 team members with a Class 8 commercial drive license. Also, with the help of Joanna Chen, council approved a new 3-year contract with West Coast Arborist, which is their contractor. And we also submitted a CAL FIRE grant application for funds for an urban forest management plan. So next page. Within the city of Menlo Park, we have close to 900,000 trees, streets and park trees. As you might know, our contractor, WCA, which is West Coast Arborist, they maintain routinely the trees within the 5-year cycle. But the people from the public, they can always request any trimming or any inspections of the trees within those 5 years. So, yeah, and we have also listed the top 3 public tree species along with number of trees planted, pruned, removed, and trimmed. So you can see the numbers there. So it's a lot. Next slide. So compared to last year, where we received 340 calls, tree storm related calls. This year storm damage was minimal. Where we only received 80 tree related calls, and majority of them they were the report we received, there were branch failures and stem failures.
And some of those failures, to clarify, were due to existing structural defects in the trees and not necessarily a reflection of the severity of the storms. So this past year's storms were pretty tame in comparison to the year before. Were you presenting this one, Joanna? No. Oh, Natty?
Was it me? I thought it was a storm damage.
present? Or, okay, so as we mentioned previously, residents are more than welcome to reach out to the city for requests for tree inspection, for maintenance. And especially for a tree planting, it really makes my day whenever I get a call or an email from a resident expressing concern or expressing interest in tree planting. Usually, people call to share their concerns about trees or because they have problems with trees. So residents can either call us directly, send us an email, or submit a service request through ACT, Menlo Park. That's SeeClickFix. The link is there. As a part of our city street tree management plan, we do every year have an overall goal to increase the number of trees that we plant around the city to make sure that they're maintained and watered properly. And in particular, to work with Canopy to plant more trees in the Bellhaven neighborhood where we need them most. Next slide. Is this also me? I should have written these down. Who presents which slide? Okay, other responsibilities of our tree division include organizing the annual Arbor Day celebration with the EQC. You can see in the photo on the slide, last year, we celebrated Arbor Day with the Child Care Development Center. In Bellhaven, we involved close to, how many children? 60, 80 children from multiple classrooms. The mayor came out and she read them books about trees and environmental stewardship. And we also had Canopy come out and help educate and engage the children in planting a couple of new trees around the Child Development Center. So that was a really fun event. I think this year we're hoping to have a larger Arbor Day celebration and have more people come in and be involved. I've already had various organizations reach out and expressed interest in being a part of the event. So looking forward to that. We also evaluate heritage tree removal permit applications for tree removal and heavy pruning. So I primarily review those with Joanna's support. With the help of my contractor, Hort Science Bartlett Consulting, we do review just about every single planning permit, building and demolition permit. As you all know, there are a lot of trees around Menlo Park, a lot of heritage trees, and unfortunately, we do see a lot of conflicts between trees and proposed development. So we make sure that, well, to start off with, every single development permit application we receive for demolition and building, I go out with a copy of the plans, I inspect the site and determine whether or not there's the potential to impact heritage trees either on the subject property or on adjacent properties. So that's defined as any kind of impactful construction within 10 times their trunk diameters. And if I do make that determination, I let the developer know, hey, they need an arborist report. They need to contact one of the arborists on our approved list and have them review their construction plans, evaluate the trees, and provide recommendations for how they can best work around and ideally preserve as many of those trees as possible. And then we also review those arborist reports and the plan sets and make sure that the trees that we want to have preserved are being preserved, that the impact mitigation recommendations are valid, that if it seems like a tree might be too heavily impacted, we'll request design changes, like, can you meander the sidewalk around this tree? Can you change how this driveway is constructed to limit impact to the root system? Can you move that ADU or that swimming pool a little further away? Sometimes we do get a bit of pushback. And oftentimes it is a compromise between tree preservation and accomplishing the proposed development. We also help ensure protection of trees during construction. So right now we do have a requirement that before any demolition or building permit is issued, that we first have a verification of the tree protection measures on site. So the contractors are required to install the tree protection fencing, install the mulch, the irrigation system. They're required to have signage in both English and Spanish on site. They have to have their project arborist who prepared that arborist report come out, make sure that those tree protection measures are in compliance with what they recommended in the arborist report, and that they also meet the city's requirements for tree protection during construction. They prepare a brief report with photos, with their recommendations, and then those are sent directly to me, and I review those and make sure all the measures are in place before we issue the demolition or the building permit. That's the very last step. The private project arborists are also required to visit those construction sites on a monthly basis to ensure that the tree protection measures are still in place and that the trees are being maintained properly. So I receive between like 10 and 15 of those reports every week. I'll review them, and if there are any issues that need to be resolved, like I was just over on Robert S. Drive. So I looked at the construction monitoring report. I saw photos of the tree protection fencing down. There was a huge bobcat like right next to a heritage valley oak, and I'm like, hold up, that doesn't look right. So I went on site earlier today, this afternoon, and talked with the construction contractors, talked with the foreman, and let them know, hey, actually, we can't have vehicular traffic. We can't have storage of equipment, supplies, heavy machinery like this so close to the tree because it compacts the soil and that disrupts the tree's ability to take up water and nutrients through its roots. So a lot of what I do as a part of tree protection during construction is also like education too. And I also often receive calls from concerned neighbors who say, hey, like, it doesn't look like they're protecting trees on that active construction site next door. Can you check it out? So I'll go out on site and talk with the contractors and the foreman, whoever I can find. And then I usually send up follow-up emails, and in order to ensure compliance, I'll usually like ping the building department. And I say, hey, it doesn't seem like the trees are being protected and maintained on this property. I'm gonna give them a week. I'm gonna give them 2 weeks to correct the tree protection or mitigate the damage with the help of their project arborist. If they don't, then we're gonna issue a stop work order. If it escalates further from that, we might need to issue a notice of violation letter with the city attorney's office and investigate potential fines we'd have to levy against them. So of course, we hope it doesn't get to that point, but we do what we can to make sure that the trees are protected and maintained properly. Another responsibility of ours includes reviewing and updating our administrative guidelines. As you all know, we're currently in the process of updating our guidelines. We can talk more about that later. We also provide root pruning consultation for hardscape work for city trees. For instance, on Monday, I was up on Continental Drive. They have a like road resurfacing project. So they're replacing the valley gutter, they're resurfacing the road because there are some really large city and private heritage trees along the edge of the road that are causing the parking spaces, the valley gutter, and the road to uplift. So they needed to remove the asphalt and they needed to achieve an 8-inch depth in order to pour the material they needed to repair those hardscape surfaces. So I went out, I documented the routes that we found. I let them know what routes we needed to preserve and work around and what routes we can prune and remove completely. Let them know that they needed to make a smooth, clean cut at the edge of the excavation, cover those exposed roots with damp and burlap to prevent them from desiccating and drying out, and then as soon as possible backfill those areas. And I also talked with the private property owners for some redwoods and let them know that the trees would really benefit from some supplemental irrigation, redwoods as a species, and those were the ones that were causing the damage. Unfortunately, redwoods with their really shallow, extensive root systems do often conflict with adjacent hardscape. Even though they do have those extensive root systems and cause a lot of damage like that, They are really hardy species, and if you do provide supplemental like potable water, they are able to tolerate a lot of root loss and are able to withstand a lot of impact. So I help provide that guidance too. So for city projects, for private property owners, like fixing their driveway, they'll reach out and either myself or Not TV Dad will go out and provide that consultation to make sure that they're able to complete whatever hardscape repair work they need to complete for sidewalks, for streets, gutters, curbs, driveways, while also minimizing the impact to the trees so that we can retain them as an asset on the site. We also do in-house beehive relocations. Natty, do you want to talk a bit about that? That's your project.
Yeah, so, past years, we have hired like beekeepers to come. This year, we've been having trouble to find one because the last one we used to use, he retired. So since experience working with them, so we end up relocating at least one this year. So I relocated from the pool here. So I did talk to the previous beekeeper we used to use, and he kind of gave me some ideas plus my kind of knowledge that I had. So we were able to locate the beehive and put it in a cavity in a tree in a park. So I haven't went back and checked if they're still there, but you know, they always try to find a home. But at least we have that, and then also we were I have like a new trap out, it's called. So it's got like a designated box. And so you will put like some tubes and then combs where the bees will go out, but they can't figure out to go in. And you put like a pheromone on the box. And then once the queen is already like kind of hungry and where's my, family, she'll go out and relocate on the actual box trap house. That's what we have. So that's pretty much it. The challenge or new thing that I have done this year.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Natty. So as you might all remember from one of the first slides, one of the most frequently occurring species in Menlo Park is the coast live oak. We also have a lot of valley oaks. These are large, mature trees that do naturally develop decay and cavities, and the bees love nesting in oak cavities. So sometimes we do get calls from concerned residents about beehives and the cavities of city street trees and park trees. And when we go out and we determine that it has become a bit of a public safety issue, we'll now work with Natty and our tree crew to relocate those bees to a more appropriate, safer area. All right, next slide.
Great, so the tree division oversees the heritage tree. And so just to summarize, I'm not going to read it for word, but just to summarize, the division maintains a healthy, beautiful urban canopy. As we all know, trees provide such great benefits, such as improving air quality and providing shade. So next slide. A common question that we typically get is, what is a heritage tree? What is the definition of it? And so at least in the city of Menlo Park, a heritage tree is determined by the size of the trunk. So for instance, any tree other than oak that has a diameter of 15 inches or more is considered as a heritage tree. Any oak tree native to California that has a trunk diameter of 10 inches or more is considered as a heritage tree. So in that case, if a resident would like to remove a tree and it is heritage sized, then a removal permit is required. So if we go to the next slide, we'll go through the permitting process. And so the city has 6 decision-making criterias. And so what we had created is we've gone through non-development. And so that's either the tree is dead, the tree poses an extreme tree risk rating, if the tree is in decline in health, or if it's a low desirable or invasive tree species. And so the application requirement, we the city requires 3 documents. One of them is an application form, an arborist report from the city approved consulting arborist list, and a tree replacement tree plan. And so the replacement tree requirement correlates to the size of the trunk, which is very different than the development related criteria, which I'll explain later. And then as for the appeal process, only the permit applicant can appeal the city's decision. So for development related removal projects, it is more stringent. So in addition to those 3 documents that are required, the city also requires a cost analysis and a alternative design. Like, what are some ways that you can try to preserve that tree? And so the replacement tree is also is more stringent. It's dependent on the tree's appraisal value as opposed to the trunk size. The appeal process is different. Any community member can appeal, and notices are sent out to within 30 feet of the property, and on-site postings are required. And then I think the past 2 years, we developed an emergency removal process. And, residents, instead of going through the normal permitting process, the residents can reach out to Jillian to show that, an emergency is required, is needed for their tree removal. So if we go to the next one. And so this is just to show you couple of resources that we have available for the residents to check out. First one is our main page. It is menlopark.gov/trees, and that's where information about the permitting process is online. Another resource is if any residents is interested in actually applying for a removal permit, or if a neighbor is curious if their next door neighbor has a permit to remove a tree, they can always go to our online permitting center. It is called menlopark.org/permit center, and they can search. They can either search by the address, or they could search by their record number. And then in the next slide is a dashboard of the metrics from last fiscal year. And so if maybe we go to the actual.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as Rachel's pulling up the actual dashboard, I'll do some explaining on how what the metric shows. Yeah. Yeah, that one. So this is pretty dynamic. If you click on, let's say, this one of the random dots.
Want me to do that?
Sure. They'll have some information about, okay, here's the address, here's the tree species, here's the diameter. The applicant applied for a permit due to a risk rating. Was it approved, denied? Was it development related? When did they apply? Was it removal, or was it a pruning permit? Is it private? Is it street? And then what council district are they in? And then over here, we have the number of approved heritage tree removals. And then on the table tab, it shows, okay, for example, if you scroll all the way bottom.
I can expand it there.
Oh, nice. It will show that, okay, so there was about 160 permit application that had 1 tree removal, about 30 permit application that had 2 tree removals. So you can, feel free to scroll down this full list if you wish. And then here's just a metric of the application status, approved and processed, denied, or withdrawn. So things like this, feel free to play around. Cool feature about this, since we're in City Hall right now, if you click on number 3, you could really drill down on your specific district. Or you could do, if you want to know multiple districts, you just highlight both districts and everything will change dynamically. So yeah, that's what the dashboard is for. Okay, and then we will move on to in progress.
All right, great. So these are some of the items that are currently in progress. We are working on updating our heritage tree ordinance administrative guidelines. We had originally planned on publishing them July 18th, but we do need more time. I just had a meeting recently with the city attorney's office. We had some questions about what they felt we could change and what they felt wasn't appropriate at this time to change. They provided some initial feedback and want to look into other questions we had. So we're still waiting for them to provide additional information before we finalize our guidelines. Do also keep in mind, I am working on updating the heritage administrative guidelines with the help of my contractor, Hort Science Bartlett Consulting. Remember, they help out with the permit reviews. They also helped write our heritage tree ordinance, helped update our ordinance back in 2020. And they also helped create our administrative guidelines. So they do have a lot of background. They've also helped create like East Palo Alto's heritage tree ordinance. They're working with the city of San Carlos on updating their heritage tree ordinance. So they have a lot of experience working with cities, updating ordinances, administrative guidelines, urban forest master plans too. We're also continually adding more arborists to our list of approved consulting arborists. So for every permit application in Menlo Park, if it's a building permit application, planning, if it's for heritage tree removal, they do have to obtain an arborist report from a city approved arborist. This helps ensure that our residents, our developers work with arborists who have been vetted by the city. These arborists have the experience, the qualifications and certifications and familiarity with our ordinance to provide sound arboricultural recommendations. The idea is that if a property owner is really concerned about a heritage tree on their property, they need to seek the guidance of a experienced qualified arborist first to exhaust all other options before submitting that heritage tree removal permit application to the city. And specifically as it relates to development, we want to make sure that those approved arborists have experience working on construction projects. They've been on an active construction site. They've seen like grading and exposed damaged roots, like they know what to do in that case. They are familiar with evaluating trees, appraising tree value, assessing tree risk. We make sure that all of our approved arborists have those qualifications. So over the past year, we did add 10 more approved arborists to that list, and we're accepting applications on an ongoing basis. As Natty mentioned earlier, we're also transitioning all of our tree work equipment to electric. We have electric leaf blowers, electric chainsaws. I recently got a mini electric handsaw. So I'll keep it in the back of my work car if there's a branch down and I can take care of it and just throw it in the back of the truck. Maybe that'll save the guys a trip. Later on, I think, what is it, Natty? By 2027, we're supposed to transition to full electric, right?
Right.
Great. Pretty soon, Natty's gonna get a Ford Lightning electric work vehicle. And I think soon I'm gonna get a little electric, what is it called? The Bolt, the Chevy Bolt. I wanted a smaller car. Something else that we're really excited about is our progress towards the creation of an urban forest master plan. So as many of you know, with the help of many people in this room, we finally submitted that CAL FIRE grant application for funds for the creation of an urban forest master plan. We're still waiting to hear back, fingers crossed. We we got the grant funding. I did send an email out to Rachel, Joanna, some other folks. I was birding around Shoreline in Mountain View, and they had a couple of signs around the park, and basically they were signs with a QR code that said, stop, look up, take a deep breath, and envision what our urban forest might look like. And it was a call inviting community members to share their thoughts about what kind of urban forest they envision for their city. So they're currently working on an urban forest master plan with SFBI. And their urban forest master plan in particular is focused on promoting biological diversity in their city, which I think is awesome. Like I followed the QR code, and it took me to a website where they have like their project timeline and like a list of upcoming community events. Like I thought that was like an amazing format. So when we are ready to move forward with our urban forest master plan, when we do hopefully get those grant funds, like we can take a look at what Mountain View is doing. And there are so many other cities that are working on creating plans too. And I'm sure there will be a lot of opportunities for collaboration there. And I think an urban forest master plan for the city of Menlo Park is long overdue. So really excited to hopefully begin work on that soon. I think that was it. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, fantastic. I love that image of Jillian with her hands all whipping it out. Let's stick with it. That's great. Wow, thank you very much, Jillian, Joanna. That was fantastic. So why don't we process-wise ask if there are any clarifying questions that you see before?
And one clarifying question, for replacement of dead trees, is there actually a permit required to replace a dead tree?
Yes, so we do require mitigation for all heritage tree removals, including dead trees. And a lot of residents have expressed surprise when they learned that. So it is based on the tree's trunk diameter, so it is less mitigation than would be required if the tree was being removed for development. Nonetheless, we think it's important in order to like maintain our urban forest canopy that we ideally have on-site tree plantings even for the removal of dead trees. And do know also that the removal of dead trees, that permit application process is expedited. We waived the arborist report requirement. I just need a photo showing that tree's dead, and ideally like plans to plant a replacement tree on site too.
So it doesn't have to be in the exact same location.
No, it can be anywhere on the property as long as it's appropriate for a tree. And usually we have specific requirements for heritage tree replacements. We try to encourage residents to plant trees with the potential to grow large, develop spreading canopies to eventually, over the course of 20, 30 years, replace the benefits and the canopy lost by the tree removal. So ideally a tree that gets to be a mature height of at least 35 feet. If that's not possible, if the resident has concerns about a tree damaging their foundation, if the only viable planting site is below power lines, I do work with the property owner to select a smaller stature tree species that would be more suitable for the site. At least we get some tree planted as opposed to just paying the in lieu fee.
Two quick clarifying questions, one around, well, both around permitting, I think. Jonah, the chart that you showed with the different types, the 3 different types and then sub bullets, are those the only instances when this can be triggered for, I think there were 7 of them in total. Like somebody couldn't say, oh, this tree is just a nuisance, I want to get rid of it. It's that just wouldn't.
So we
For the permit.
You technically do have an additional criterion that I have been evaluating heritage tree removal permit applications based on that we're going to incorporate into our updated administrative guideline. And that is the instance in which we have a tree that is in conflict with an existing habitable structure. So if we have a redwood, and this has happened a couple of times and it really breaks my heart. We have a giant, like 60-foot coast redwood, literally like a foot away from the house, and they submit a permit application. The tree is otherwise healthy, the tree is otherwise structurally sound, it's safe, low tree risk rating. But they submit a permit application. I ask that they get a report from a building inspector or from a structural engineer documenting and showing that there is structural damage to the house, like there are cracks in the foundation. They go into the crawl space and you can see the tree roots, you can see the damage. The windows aren't closing properly, the doors aren't aligned in their frames. Those are all telltale signs of foundation damage of the house shifting. Likely because of the proximity of that large tree. So if they're able to provide that documentation, and I kind of modeled it after the development criterion. So they evaluate the tree's appraised value. Let's say the redwood's appraised at $30,000. I asked for an estimate of the cost of repairing the foundation of the house, which is often a lot of money, especially for houses around Menlo Park, $200,000. If you can show me that the cost of repairing the damage is more than the tree's appraised value, we can approve it. And those are really difficult situations, but we do get a lot of requests for tree removal based on that criterion. So that's something that we're hoping to add to the updated guidelines.
And then maybe one quick follow-up question. Where in the development process are you typically brought in? Is it early? Is it after? I mean, I'm just curious when you typically see the impact to trees in the overall development process.
I'm involved right at the beginning. So for every building and demolition permit application we receive, I take a copy of the plans out into the field with me, inspect the site, determine if there will be tree impacts and whether an arborist report will be required. Me and my contractor will review the plans and the arborist reports, make sure that there's compliance with the city's regulations. If there are any heritage trees that need to be removed, I review those permit applications. I visit the trees, review the plans, make sure there's good cause for tree removal and that they have a plan for replacing those trees. Again, ideally with replacement tree plantings on site. And then I review those tree protection verification letters. I review those monthly documented reports from the project arborist throughout construction, making sure those trees are being protected and maintained. So I do try to be involved in the process the whole way through. Sometimes it doesn't always work out. Sometimes a tree that was supposed to be protected and preserved during construction unexpectedly gets severely damaged. And we realize actually this tree's been so compromised, we need to remove it under emergency circumstances. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but sometimes it does.
Has there ever been a plan that's submitted for building and the entire application was declined due to a heritage tree conflict?
Well, that's a good question. No, it's never gotten to the point where the development application was denied entirely. Heritage tree conflicts, have certainly delayed projects and caused developers and residents to have to change their designs to accommodate and protect trees better. I prefer that we work together to come to a compromise, that they change the design of their house foundation, for example, to accommodate the tree, still preserving the tree while making sure the proposed construction is completed too.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about that there's a period of time when development projects were submitted to the city and there were no zoning codes that applied because we were under that state law, the builder's remedy. And so there wouldn't be the normal play between the size of the construction planned and the size of the lot and the placement of the trees. And so it could really come to it that there's quite a conflict between a development and some heritage trees because it's not within the normal sort of set of constraints that would match a building to its plan. Is this coming at you right now? Is this a problem that you see with, dairy non-code projects?
This might be more of a discussion item.
Oh,
Yeah, just because
sorry.
it wasn't
Oh,
relative to something in the slides.
Well, yeah, let's just follow up. Any other clear questions?
Hey, funny, what else is involved in the changes for the guideline? You mentioned one.
Yeah, so there are a whole bunch of changes I've been working on. Rachel, is it okay if we talk about those, or was that something we needed to discuss during a different meeting?
I'm trying to remember what the slide said exactly. But it might be best to save just for the discussion portion of our meeting today.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can talk
I have
about.
a question about, about the selection of the arborists for the city. So, sounds like they need to be qualified and vetted. Is there a certain amount of familiarity of the personnel in the city with the sort of the ethics and the operations of these arborists? In other words, the thing you think about is, well, if a resident wants to remove a tree, that perhaps the arborist would be willing to sort of change their opinion.
Yeah, that's a great
So I'm
question.
just wondering about the ethics aspect of how you qualify them.
And I do have my suspicions of some of the arborists on our list, so.
So
In a
what the
perfect
part
world-
of the vetting is that they'll submit work samples for us. And we do have a review team internally, and we'll go through those review plans to see, okay, do they match so closely with our heritage tree? Or is it so far off because they're basing it off of a different city? And so we'll provide them feedback saying, hey, you are missing an example of monitoring an ongoing construction site. Do you have any work sample of those? And if they don't, then unfortunately they won't make the list. But if they do, then great, we'll review it once again to see if it falls in line with, we have like a planner on our review team. We have Jillian, myself, and maybe the contractor as well. So we do have different aspects when we go to reviewing their work. And then as far as the people who are currently on our list, whenever permit applications are submitted, Jillian will always go on site to look at those trees to make sure, yes, they were correctly assessed, or no, they were not correctly assessed. So there is like Jillian's second opinion. It's not, we don't always rely on the arborist report. We'll look at them, but Jillian will always vet those heritage trees.
Got it. That's
Right.
a very robust process. Thanks for doing all.
Just revisiting the question of ethics, so I would say maybe like half of the arborists on our list are private arborist consultants, they just consult. The other half, they're arborists who are a part of a tree care company, so you think A+ Tree Service, Davy Tree Service, Bartlett Tree Service, they have a consulting arm and they have a tree removal division, they have a tree care division, so there is the potential for conflicts of interest if one of those arborists, a Davy arborist, for instance, prepares an arborist report for tree removal, knowing that their tree crew will benefit financially from the tree removal, I think they would be more likely to recommend the removal of a tree. I think they're biased. So in particular, for those permit applications, I really am critical of the reports and the recommendations. And as Joanna said, I visit each and every one of those trees and make sure that there is actually good cause for tree removal. Like I bring my evaluation tools, I bring my binoculars, I make sure that, hey, that tree is actually really decayed, or this tree is perfectly fine, we can't approve it, and then I deny it at that point.
Thanks for explaining.
We can circle back to the heritage tree ordinance and I can pull up the slide that we had on that if you want to now.
Okay.
For the sake of time, is everybody okay if we move to public comment? Is that all right?
That'd be fine too.
Yeah.
And we'll shut down discussion. Okay, Rachel, if we could see if there's any public comments. That'd be great.
Absolutely. If any members of the public would like to make comment on item D2, annual city arborist report, if you're in the room, since we don't have public comment cards, you could just raise your hand and we'll look at you and get you queued up. If you're online via Zoom, you can press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen or next to your name. And if you're calling in from a landline, you can press *9 and we'll be able to unmute you. So we'll check online and in the room. And so we have one in the room. Yeah, there's in the room. Okay. Two in the room. And then we'll go to our online comments. So let me pull up our timer. We'll have 3 minutes each. And we'll start with in the room, Mr. Schmidt, when you're ready.
Thank you, Brian Schmidt and Dennis Stark. Great report. Thank you. A couple comments regarding dead or unhealthy trees. In the environmental field, the last decade or so, you see a lot more approach toward doing mitigation in advance. And I'm wondering if that's possible for someone to look at this tree. And I was looking at a tree in a property in Redwood City, a large aging tree, and us property had room for another tree. Saying, let's plant another tree now. In 10 years, when that tree goes, this tree will be ready to be the dominant tree. But the permit structure you're talking about right now would say you have to replace that dead tree with yet another tree, rather than that tree we planted 10 years ago. So I'm wondering if there's some way to do some other advanced mitigation. That's a possibility. Very glad to hear about the oaks and having native trees and maybe emphasizing native and drought resilient trees. I know that there are some, I believe at least there's some sources of very local oaks. So I'm curious about where these oak trees are sourced, as opposed to say some nursery in Southern California that has kind of generalized oak trees. Regarding London plane trees, is it possible to replace those with native sycamore trees, which are very similar trees? And then I understand UTC will be discussing groundwater rise later this year. And how that affects street trees and public trees in the areas of the city that are going to be affected by those, particularly because some of that water brackish. Thanks.
Great, and I believe we have one more public comment in the room, and since we don't have public comment cards, could you state your name and where you live?
I have no public comment.
Oh, okay.
I came here to pick up food. I thought,
Great.
thank you.
No problem. Okay, we'll move to our online comments. We'll start with Megan and then go to Lynn, followed by Pam D. Jones. So we'll start Megan when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been a resident of Menlo Park for, as an adult for many, many decades, and I've noticed a lot of changes. And with respect to the urban forest as it relates to private residences, I've noticed an alarming trend that is increasing, it seems month to month, where I'm noticing residential lots, the house is purchased, the entire lot is raised. A new development begins, and it begins with a subterranean basement floor that takes up the entire footprint of the house that's being constructed. And I'm noticing it appears regularly as if all but maybe 1 or 2 trees are left on lots. I see this almost weekly, a new occurrence of this. And I'm just very concerned, and I'm wondering about things such as this process where there's the cost of an alternative design plan compared to the cost of the valued heritage tree. My understanding is that formula needs some updating so that the increase cost of construction that has occurred over recent years, that is built into an updated formula with that price comparison and analysis. I'm also concerned that for new residential owners, if they are investing, I'm just guessing, 6 million upwards, between buying a house, raising it, building something new, that the cost to remove a heritage tree, just to take it down and pay a fine, that is, it just doesn't there's no incentive to leave the tree really if it's going to interfere with their design. And my other concern, and when I was mentioning this trend I'm noticing of the subterranean, the basement floor that's going into these lots, and it's taking up a huge, I don't know what percentage of the lot. How is that impacting our water table? How is that impacting neighboring tree root systems? And how are we projecting this current rapid increase of this sort of residential private development? How are we projecting and capturing this data to see what it's going to look like in the future? What sort of a potentially skeleton urban forest throughout private residences and neighborhoods? What is that going to look like in the future? And just to tack on one more point, it seems like there's a real gap in tracking after people remove their heritage tree. My understanding is there's a lot of just trust that people are going to put in a replacement tree. And my understanding is it's very difficult for the arborist department to follow up and make sure those replacements are in place. Thank you.
I think we're going to D-Lynn and then Pam D. Jones. D-Lynn, when you're ready.
Hi, actually, this is Scott Marshall. I'm on my wife's computer and I am a former member of the EQC. And first of all, thank you, EQC members. Thank you, Arborist Keller, and thank you, city staff for having this presentation. So a few things, the presentation was great, but a couple of things that I thought might possibly add to it that would benefit us more. One would be, instead of the number of trees that were removed and that were planted, maybe the percentage of canopy that was lost and the canopy that would be replaced. That might be hard, but maybe say that the trees that were removed were large, medium, or small, and we could kind of estimate if we lost a lot of canopy or if there's still a lot of canopy where those trees were. Another thing was it would be nice to have a comparison between this year's presentation and maybe a few years in the past. And then we could see if we are losing more trees or planting more trees. It would give us a trend to see if we are actually working on growing a larger canopy in Menlo Park. See where we're going with that. And then lastly, when we were talking about development and heritage tree removal, it seems like the arborist sees the report, sees a set of plans when they've already been drawn. Maybe it would be good as if when a property was sold, like a realtor is posting a sign and he or she is sitting down with the future buyer saying, and did you know that Menlo Park is a heritage tree city? That way, if there's a heritage tree on the lot, the developer or builder or homeowner knows there's a tree there and they have an ordinance that they're going to have to work with to get that drawing approved, instead of saying, oh, don't worry about the tree. And then they come and see the arborist, the city arborist, and she says, well, that's a heritage tree. And they say, oh, but we've already spent money to design this project. They should know ahead of time before they ever put anything down on paper that there are heritage trees on the lot, and they're going to have to try and work with those trees that are there. Because it always seems like it's after the fact that the city then says, you got to do something about that tree. And it's fairly easy. I'm a contractor myself. It's fairly easy to say the cost of redesigning and rebuilding around a tree is going to be so much more than planting another tree at a replacement value of the tree that's there. So those are my recommendations. And once again, it was a great report. I learned a lot, and I look forward to finding out how things are going in the future. Thank you. Once again, Scott Marshall, of former EQC member myself. Goodbye.
Thank you for your comment. We now have our last commenter, Pam D. Jones, when you're ready.
Good evening. This is Pam D. Jones. I live in the Bellhaven neighborhood, District 1 of Menlo Park. And I couldn't be more excited about this report because it's finally understandable. And I look forward to the urban forest management plan, because as the two previous speakers said, we have lost an extraordinary amount of trees because there are people that have built their house on the maximum amount that you can do on the lot, or have gotten a waiver to do even more. I would like to see us count every single tree that we've lost and not just count it. We don't need to have, anything else with that, and add those up at the end of the year. I'd like to see us require the large developers to replace not even the non-heritage trees with 2 or more trees. When you look at the areas that are being affected by the tree removal, to lose a 50-foot tree, well, that's a little high, but to lose a 30 or 40-foot tree, and then we have no idea how long that the new trees are going to be at some level of maturity, so that they will give some protection.
Oh, I'm done with what I have to do.
Okay.
Yeah, and to have information that tells us how long it takes a tree to mature to replace the tree that's been removed. Lastly, I'd like you all to look at the mini forest that's in the Willow Village that's going to be removed. It's around the Shell Mound. That's really a critical piece, that the replacement that they're required to do, this is all already approved, is nowhere near what is being done to the area. So I thank you again, commissioners and staff. This is really exciting, all of what's coming up now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And I believe that concludes our public comment section. I can hand it back over to you, Jeff.
Great. Why don't we open it up for EQC discussion? First of all, I want to say thanks to Megan, Scott, and Pam for commenting. Since a lot of us in the room feel pretty strongly about this issue, so thanks for comments. I'll jump in, but then we'll go around the room. So Scott stole my thunder a little bit. The reason I was asking where we were in the development process was, I think, exactly what Scott articulated, which is, would we have the option to move your visibility and engagement up even before anything goes down on paper? Because it feels like you're always behind the 8 ball because they've spent money to get schematics done. They've already invested. Whereas, is there a dynamic where we could figure out, the minute it's sold or whatever the right stage is before something is designed? That's where I was headed with my question as well. Because then there's money, there's time, there's energy. And
Yeah, that's a great question. I do agree. I should be involved as much as possible, as early as possible. I think the same can be said of getting private arborists involved in these construction plans. They should be able to help design the new house, like with the tree preservation considerations in mind. Oftentimes they're not brought in until like the plans have already been drawn up, and then it's just a matter of like, oops, the house is already there, I guess we have to remove that tree. But before I became city arborist, there weren't arborist site check inspections. Like, we didn't have an arborist go out when a demolition and building permit were first submitted to see if an arborist report was required. They had a building inspector do that, and they missed a lot. And that's why I started doing what I do. The city arborist didn't review building and demolition permits. That was all done by an offsite contractor who was based out of Pleasanton. So I have made a lot of changes to the structure, and I have like inserted myself in many different parts of the process, like the tree protection verification letters before the building and demolition permits are issued. Like, I did that. I made sure that we had some process in place before those demolition bulldozers arrived on site and started tearing down the house. That there were tree protection measures on site first. Admittedly, I'm not sure like how I could be involved earlier. You mentioned when a house is sold, transferred ownership, and I do see this happen a lot. New owners come in, sometimes from out of state, sometimes from out of the country, and they're not familiar with tree protection ordinances, they don't know that we protect trees, that they're not allowed to cut them all down without proper review and mitigation. I do sometimes have new property owners and realtors reach out to me and say, hey, I'm about to purchase this property, but before I purchase the property, I want to know if I can cut these trees down. Do you think that's possible? And I'm like, well, at least they're reaching out and asking those questions, and then I have to do a bit of education to let them know, actually, we have a heritage tree ordinance, we have a process for evaluating whether or not we can remove or preserve those trees with your construction project. But that doesn't happen too frequently. If you have any recommendations for how we can build that into our review process right now, like, I don't really know like how involved the city is with those house purchases and transfers of ownership. I don't
So
think-
the good thing is that the information is there. I mean, if somebody goes and asks, are there heritage trees in this property? You do know that. So the question is, how do we inject that question into the process?
Well, we could do two things. I think we could, thank you for being open to that, because I think that's been part of the frustration of you're always behind the eight ball, right? You're always sort of 3 steps behind the process. And we could do a little benchmarking with the cities, just like Jillian's done with Mountain View and Urban Forest Master Plan. We can just check with our cities around and say,
Yeah.
are you doing this?
Yeah, but I was thinking that there's a similar situation with the gas and electric appliances in a property. If we could inject ourselves in there, so that before somebody closes a deal, they can ask, they are told, this is the status.
I've got another question, but why don't we go around the table?
Yeah. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for doing so much amazing work, all of you. I joined the EPC around the same time you became the arborist, and I heard a lot about what it was like before you joined, and I feel like it's night and day. So thank you for all of the hard work and finding ways to improve the process all over the place. I have a question about the process for updating the administrative guidelines for both the EQC as well as the public. And a question about the 101 Willow Road interchange. So any updates on that?
Sure. Do we want to talk about the administrative guideline update process first?
Sure. Was it your question around timing or around maybe some initial thinking? Jillian's been doing like a teaser.
If you're ready to share a teaser, that would be lovely, but I was more questioning about the process. Like, how does the public comment period open? Do we get to see the comments as EQC or as members of the public? Yeah, that kind of.
Yeah, my previous question was just the scope, what's in, no, not the details, but I mean, how big are these?
Yeah.
Did we want to discuss the public comment process? I'm not too familiar with that. I was hoping.
But I could try to kick off and then maybe you guys can join in. As far as the scope of the admin guidelines, we are looking at every single sentence, paragraph, periods and all of that. So we are doing a thorough read through of it, see what kind of updates we want to do. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer than what we had anticipated. As far as, you know, a teaser, I don't know if we should do that just because we want to run it through the city attorney's office first and upper management first. But I do want to say that we are looking through everything with close eyes. I know one of the public commenter had mentioned about updating the construction costs, and that is something that we are looking into. And then as far as the process, so Jillian will do her revisions. She'll pass it on to our supervisors. She'll also pass it on to the city attorney. Once the public director thinks it's good, the draft is good, we'll post it online. Once that is posted online, then the public will have 30 days to make any public comments. As far as EQC's role, that's a great question. I would need to look into whether or not you guys would want to review the public comments coming in, or yeah, that little small detail, we'll figure that out. That's a great question. But then EPC comments would need to be made within those 30-day window.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so after the window closes, the director will review it. She'll probably want to figure out our feedback, whether or not it's able to be incorporated into admin guidelines, or if it doesn't fit, that'll be another internal review, and then the final draft will be posted online. Thank you, yeah.
We could probably promote it though, right? I mean, through our resident networks, through our like nonprofit networks, we can promote that the comment period's open.
Right,
And I'm
yeah,
also assuming it'll be included in like the weekly updates that the city sends out.
yeah, the digest item, yeah, we'll
Great.
do like a whole media push through it, and we'll probably let you know, and then you guys could do your network advertisement.
Great, yeah.
And then we'll be sure to schedule it on the EQC that's kind of closest to the release of those guidelines. So we were hoping for August. It may look like we discuss it in September or.
As long as it's within that 30
Exactly.
day.
So we'll time EQC meeting to have the EQC discuss within that 30-day window and make a formal recommendation if you'd like to, at least have that opportunity.
Perfect. That sounds great. Any update on that? Oh,
Oh, the one nuance was whether or not we can share the public comment in advance and kind of what the timing around that looks like. So we'll get back to you on that.
cool. I was gonna ask about the 101 Willow interchange. I know that's more of a Caltrain thing, but since we're talking about trees, I thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rachel can provide a high level overview. I will say, I did just finish my review of the 90% plans too, so why don't you go first, Rachel? And if you have any tree related questions, I can maybe help answer those too.
What is your jurisdiction on the versus Caltrans
Oh, I'll share.
jurisdiction on the?
I'll go into that. So our project manager is our deputy city manager, Nikki Nagaya. So she was able to provide an update for us. And so as far as the roles go, Caltrans is a project owner since it's their right of way. The city, it will manage the contract with the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, who's managing the construction. And then we also are supporting the design development. And East Palo Alto is a project stakeholder since half the interchange is within their jurisdiction. And we have a project website that we can include in the minutes and share after on our, it's nestled within our Public Works page. So that's kind of the players. And update, as Jillian mentioned, the design package is in development and we're currently at our 90% level. And at that point,
90% level.
oh, well, if you want to share, or I can give my.
Oh, so it's the progress that the project team is making towards finalizing the design and the landscape plan. So there's usually 30%, 60%, 90%. You're almost ready to finalize the plans and implement whatever it is you have planned.
So that's good news.
Yes,
Awesome.
yeah, it's one of our final check marks.
Great.
And that 90% will be published in the coming weeks, and you'll be able to view it on our website, and we'll be sure to share that. And then the final design is anticipated by November 2024, bidding and construction contract award in early 2025, followed by construction in spring of 2025, tentatively March or April, and it'll take approximately 12 months. So looking for completion in spring of 2026.
Did you say there was a time for public input on the design, or has that passed?
I have to get back to you on that one. I'm not sure when they publish the 90%, if they'll be soliciting feedback or if it's a more of an awareness thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, I reviewed the arborist report and the landscape plans. So as a part of their project, they are proposing the removal of 4 privately owned, Caltrans owned heritage liquid ambers, sweet gum trees. So I'm actually gonna go out and inspect those trees tomorrow. They were proposed for removal due to poor health and structural defects. Caltrans is exempt from the permitting process, but they do have an extensive plan for re-landscaping. So in particular, I really appreciate it. And I did talk with Caltrans and their landscape designers about possible species options, and most of the tree species and shrub and ground cover species they're proposing are California natives, pollinator, wildlife friendly. So I was stoked. I love native trees. So they're gonna plant 25 coast live oaks, 23 interior live oaks, 9 Atlas cedars, 9 deodar cedars, 7 Spanish firs, a whole bunch of like Arctostaphylos manzanita, Ceanothus, coast silk tassel, Santa Cruz ironwood, another native, deer grass, hollyleaf cherry, California sage, California bay laurels, so a lot of natives, which is wonderful. And they also have an extensive maintenance and irrigation plan as well to make sure that the trees receive the irrigation they need to establish successfully. And yeah, I live in Menlo Park, like I drive past like that barren area, and I've really been looking forward to this plan personally, so it should be good.
That's gonna be huge. That'll be huge, especially for the people who live close, to have the positive impact of all those trees. I'm glad you're excited. I'm excited now.
We should get a report out as well, because that group, the CCCT group.
Yeah.
Probably talks about it. I mean, Pam would know better, but probably every meeting it comes up, every other meeting it comes up, so.
Yeah, it might be nice to get on the agenda if they meet the Thursday, the third Thursday of the month. We can coordinate tomorrow.
Actually, yeah. Reach out to Kate.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Commissioner Bill, sorry.
I wanted to re-ask my question about what you're saying is the conflicts between some of the builders remedy projects and the heritage trees that are on there.
Yeah, so the builder's remedy projects, are you talking about that big development plan at the intersection of Middlefield and?
That's one. The other ones are on Constitution.
Okay, so I've been reviewing both projects. The project on Constitution, I actually drove to the site and walked around. There are actually no trees on site.
Yeah.
There aren't even any trees on adjacent properties that have root systems or canopies that extend onto the property. That's usually what we look for in terms of impacts to neighboring trees. So for that project, they actually don't need an arborist report. They don't need a tree protection plan, but I will be involved in reviewing whatever landscape plans they have and whatever plans they have. And we are going to require that they plant street trees around the perimeter of the new property. For that big Willow Road, Middlefield Road project, I have been involved, and so far, it's a bit preliminary, the design in our review, but I've received direction from like upper management and from the city attorney's office to just review it as I would any other development project. So I've been applying our heritage tree ordinance, our street tree ordinance. I've reviewed the arborist report and requested a lot of revisions. I looked at the proposed street trees and asked that they plant bigger trees more appropriate for the site. They are proposing heritage tree removals, of course, given the scale and intensity of proposed development. They're also actually, you might know, since this is the former Sunset Magazine site, they have a lot of incredible specimen plants and trees. They're actually planning on transplanting a lot of those specimens to other parts of the site, which is awesome. You know, some of those trees and shrubs are like one of a kind. So I'm making sure that they have specifications for how they can complete that work successfully, especially larger mature trees. You have to make sure you do it right, otherwise you lose the tree, and that's basically a heritage tree removal at that point. So I've only just reviewed the first set of plans in the arborist report. Provided initial comments about transplanting, species selection, about the heritage tree removal, permit application process. We're gonna be part of the alternative design, cost analysis. We need to make sure the proposed mitigation is sufficient. So yeah, waiting for the revisions to be submitted so I can take another look. And yeah, basically. So like same process as any other projects.
I have another question. It's kind of getting into the weeds of, let's see, so when we notify the public of a heritage tree potentially being removed, there's the yellow sign, and I think you can go online and see a permit. There was a question that came up in conversations with residents, like, would there be a way to easily create a, I don't know, like a subscription service where you can sign up to get alerts? If heritage trees are gonna be removed, maybe in your district or, across all. So I don't know if that's in the works or something that's possible, but we would love to see that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We don't currently have that built into our permit process in the website. Joanna, did you wanna talk about the potential to?
We can look into it, but yeah, we would have to look into it, talk to IT if that's even possible, because that is linked to a software called Excella, so we would need to learn if it has that capability.
Yeah, it would be really helpful, I think, especially when we're talking about these large scale developments with multiple trees, maybe hundreds of trees being removed. That only people within 100 yards are notified, but it really does impact everyone in the city and potentially even beyond. So I think it would be a nice way, like a nice public service where people can, because you have to act quickly to do an appeal. And it's, we're not always driving by every area in the city. So I think that would really support the urban forest and support helping people feel like they have a voice in what's happening in our city. So thank you for making note of that. The other question I had was related to, I wonder what we can do to make sure that the trees are planted. The mitigation trees, you take out one, you have to replace with one or two. Like, should we consider fees if people don't replace it in a certain period of time?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one of the residents who joined virtually, Megan, she and I actually talked at length about her concerns a week and a half ago, and we talked about admittedly the challenges we've been having with ensuring that those replacement trees are in fact planted. So we'll issue a removal permit, and the permit is conditioned on replanting a tree within, what is it, like 6 months of the heritage tree removal, or if it's related to development, before the final inspection for the associated construction project. So I've always included language, and Joanna does this too, about how they're supposed to contact me after the construction project has ended or that 6-month period has ended with photos, so that we can verify that the mitigation requirements have been met, that species, that container size were planted where we had agreed they would be planted. I would say, man, how honest do I really want to be? Maybe about 15 to 20% of those residents reach back out to me and let me know that they've planted their replacement trees. So I'll go in, save those pictures and close out the permit applications. And then maybe like once or twice a month, I'll go through my list of projects in Excella and look at all of the heritage tree removal permit applications that are approved, issued, but haven't been closed out. Those are the projects that we have not verified the mitigation requirements have been met for. So I'll go through those and I'll send emails out to the residents, and like, sometimes I don't even get a response. What do I do then? Or sometimes they say, oh, we need more time. We've been on summer vacation in Europe. Okay, I'll make a note. I'll check back in with them in a month. And sometimes they're like, we can't afford it. We're struggling financially. Prices are so high, like childcare, rent. And what else can I do? Like, this is something that we initially thought we could work with code enforcement with, issuing what is it called? The administrative citations. So right now, we've only been issuing this administrative citations for heritage tree violations, the street tree violations, unpermitted removals of heritage trees, unpermitted, like significant pruning, butchering. of heritage trees, like, and street trees too. It hasn't extended to the point where we've started implementing it to ensure that replacement trees have been planted, but we've talked about it. We're still like formalizing our process with the code enforcement office and with the city attorney's office. It might get to the point where it will have to be done, but like it's just like one of the most challenging things. If you guys have any recommendations for how we can improve the process and ensure that those trees are. Because admittedly, that is one of the biggest flaws. Areas of improvement there.
Well,
we
you
can
do
work
have
on.
that electric handsaw.
Well, a couple quick ones from me. One is maybe more just as you're thinking about this long term. I think we're really fortunate to have you being vigilant on all this. I guess I would ask that as we're working on this, we think about how to get it written into the procedures. You know, none of us are here forever, right? So just like we're thinking long term with an urban forest management plan, can we, some of the practices that you do just out of a willingness to do that and caring about trees, can we get those into more formal things for the people who succeed you? So it's just food for thought. And then along the same lines, but slightly different tack. What if CAL FIRE doesn't happen? So what's next with the forest management plan? If we don't get CAL FIRE? I know we're all like super optimistic and thinking it's gonna happen, but Rachel was saying like there's a lot more applications than we thought. So what if no CAL FIRE?
Yeah, that's a great question and something I don't really want to think about. We already have 500,000 set aside in CIP, right? For the urban forest master plan? 250, okay, and then the other 250 we were hoping to receive through CAL FIRE. We could seek alternative funding sources, maybe, I don't really know how it works, but maybe try to increase funding through the CIP process too.
Or we can
With
also
city
shrink
councils.
down the scope of it. So
Oh, yeah.
maybe concentrate on the canopy analysis, just do that section versus that having a whole creation of the plan. So there is alternatives.
Chip away at it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, none of us will think about it, but. Any other discussion for the sake of time, I think,
There's a.
yes, sir, here, oh, yes.
I'll try to be quick. First of all, thank you to Jillian, Joanna, and TV Dot, great presentation. Thank you to all the commissioners with their great comments, and I thought our public comments tonight were really thoughtful and insightful, so I appreciate all of those. Just, I guess, three quick things. Well, actually, first thing, you were asking, like, I think you were saying that sometimes the mitigation trees aren't being planted because the homeowner is claiming financial hardship. Did I correct? Okay, so one thought would be they have to pay up front, and then once the tree is planted, they get that fee refunded. Just one thought to protect that money.
Like a bond?
Yeah, yeah, it might be hard to administer. And then Pam Jones made a comment about the sort of having a replacement situation for non-heritage trees. Do we have that? And if we don't, is that something we could consider?
I think that would require updates to our heritage tree ordinance. We do protect non-heritage street trees. All street trees are protected, so if it's a baby like coastline oak planted last summer, if they remove that, they would be required to replace it. So those are still protected even though they're small and aren't considered heritage trees, but those are the only small trees that are protected.
So, okay. Sounds like it might take some effort to get something implemented where heritage trees have to be replaced.
Or even counted, because I don't think we
Mm.
know, we don't. Right, if a tree is a non-heritage tree, people can do.
Well, like in a new development, they have to say how many trees they're removing, right? Whether it's heritage or non-heritage.
Yeah, so in Menlo Park, in the arborist report, tree inventory, we do require that they include all trees at least 6 inches in trunk diameter. So that does include smaller trees, all street trees that are adjacent to the property, but it's really only the street trees and the heritage trees that are regulated. A property owner can remove any non-heritage, non-street tree if they wanted to. It's not regulated out of our jurisdiction.
Okay. Next question is about residential requests for city planted trees. Like, is that a competitive process? Like, okay, so like, you don't have to like prioritize one request over another. They pretty much all get met in a timely manner.
Natty, do you want to talk about that actually?
Yeah, whoever requests a new planted street tree, we'll add it to the list, and that's we do it on the planting season and the planting season at fall.
Okay.
So for sure we do.
I used the service last year and it was wonderful,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
very good,
Where do you live?
on Gilbert. Gilbert.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so every, I get happy every, many people, they'll say, yeah. And we'll just add it to the list, and normally I'll get with the residents sometimes, most of the time. And kind of ask what kind of a species, and then whatever will be planted on the area. And then depending if there's power lines or the sites of the factory street or stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, it was a service that I wasn't aware of, so I was thinking maybe there would be a way to amplify that to the city residents to let them know that this is something that's available to them. I don't know, sort of building up the city tree inventory is already part of the environmental justice element or the urban forest master plan, but this may be another way to sort of encourage folks to get more city trees planted. Then I just had a question about the transition to fully electric equipment by 2027. I was curious if you see any challenges with that, or like you've identified all the electrical options and you're good, you're gonna be able to do it?
So, so far, I was able to find medium-sized chainsaw, not the bigger ones. As you know, in Menlo Park, we have huge trees with a big trunk diameter. So the biggest chainsaw we got is a 20-inch. We've been working with that. I mean, it uses a lot of the batteries, but good thing we have the hybrid new bucket truck that we have like chargers inside. So that thing operates, electrical, most of the day, like by around, depending on the use, but around 3, it kind of switches to the diesel, but it's a very minimum. Like I said, depending on the use. And sometimes we just use electric, the whole truck. But when it's running, it's running with the diesel kind of the electric. And yeah, like I said, I don't know, unless there's a company that makes bigger chainsaws with bigger batteries, then we will be accomplished. But with the blowers, the smaller chainsaws, we've been fine. Yeah, they've been working out good. We just need bigger chainsaws for bigger removers. I mean, it's not that we remove big trees because we want to, but some of them are either diseased or dead, and we just, we'll remove them.
Yeah, I was curious because these Ford Lightnings have huge batteries, right? And so maybe you could get equipment that works with the Ford Lightning. You just plug in a cord to the Ford Lightning, and then you have tremendous amount of battery life for some of the heavier equipment.
That'll be challenging, removing the tree, because it might be a tree passer, it might cut the cord or something kind of like that. But definitely, the batteries are the same as the, right now we have like 2 chainsaws, the chainsaw that we normally use like for removals, which is the top handle chainsaw, and then I bought a new top handle chainsaw electric. It has the same power, like almost the same power. The only thing is just the battery. You gotta switch the battery, and then the gas, well, obviously you gotta pour gas, but it's almost the same power. The matter is they making, I guess, bigger chainsaws, bigger bar, bigger model, maybe bigger batteries. It'd probably be the same power, but we're just gonna be running on electric batteries more. But it's almost the same, no difference.
Great, thank you.
Okay, well, this doesn't need a motion, so I think unless there's any other discussion items, we should thank our friends and all right, so why don't we move to item D3, which is reviewing and discussing student engagement in the EQC, collaborating with the EQC. So maybe let me tee this up, and then I don't think John and I actually practiced what we were gonna do, but do we want to pull, is that part of the deck? Should we pull this?
I can share it and we can include it in the minutes.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Nat.
Thanks.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay,
Thanks for looking out.
So by way of background,
Let me know when you want me to share.
yeah, you can go ahead and share it. So by way of background, this is really just taking the ball and running with it based on some initial outreach done by Mrs. Ward and her fourth grade students. And I think we've mentioned that a few times. During the EQC, John read the letters. Nancy and I had a chance to go and talk to Mrs. Knoll's class, or actually it was less talking, it was more listening to their projects and talking a little bit about the EQC. And it was actually kicked off by Council Member Dorr in District 5, who initially went in and started this engagement with Mrs. Ward. So I think we just sort of looked at this and said, student engagement in the EQC and in the city directly, fantastic. So we met with her a couple of weeks ago now, I think, had a coffee and really just started to map out what could that look like? You know, what practically would it look like from the school side and what would it look like from the EQC side? And obviously the constraints are fairly normal constraints. It's late in the day, fourth graders are not going to be, you know, joining a lot of these calls and offering a lot of technical advice. You know, it's going to be a little bit more of a simpler structure, but a way that they can feel like their voices are heard. And they will be heard, not in a surface way where we're patting them on the head and saying your voices are heard, but the idea is real projects, part of our work plan, taking that and basically bringing that into her class, letting them do projects, letting them have discussions, and really empowering her to figure out what part of our work plan makes sense in her classroom context, working with other grades to potentially pull that together. John had a great idea about making sure other districts are involved, like Ravenswood, from the very beginning, so we wouldn't just work with just Oakville, we'd work with as many that would want to participate. So then they would come in and they would also work with staff a bit and figure out how to kind of meet the school halfway. And I don't know if many of you know this, but I ran a K-12 nonprofit for about 5 years, and taking the burden off teachers is really important. You know, it's sort of this, they come up with this great initiative, but unless the city meets them halfway, it's really tough, you know, with all the things they have to do. So I think the gist of our discussion was, let's meet this amazing teacher halfway as a city, as an EQC, and make it happen. So a couple of things, and I won't probably have a chance to read this, but we'd identify a couple projects. We would do our typical form of subcommittee and start to brainstorm this. We listed a couple of examples. You know, it might be explaining the CAP to them. It might be, you know, some signage. Some of us went to tour the Belhaven Community Campus, and I forget who came up with the idea of having signage up, but that was you. But somebody said, well, wouldn't it be great if, you know, the students could kind of go on that tour and see how things have been electrified? So there's lots of ideas, and we often want to leave it to their creativity. So subcommittee would help form those projects. And then the second piece of this really is those initial lessons and these ideas would be presented to the EQC. So we would need to figure out, I don't know, do we do a Saturday thing? Do we do, this is what the subcommittee would explore. Maybe a student representative comes in the very beginning of an EQC meeting and does 30 minutes, or, you know, spends 2 hours with Ori and they do a joint presentation, whatever it looks like, the subcommittee would structure it. So the request, and then the second goal, so the first goal is just to build that structure through the subcommittee. The second goal would then be, let's expand that. You know, it doesn't have to be just Oakville, it could be MA, it could be other things. So this drive and this desire to get students more invested in their future and feel like they have a voice versus just despairing about what they're left with. So that underlying kind of goal is really important. So the next steps, you can read those, but we would definitely want to review with school districts a little bit more. We have a good relationship with Kristen, I think, in Menlo Park City School District, so you know, we feel like there's already openness there, and we're on one of her advisory committees, so she's already aware this is kind of happening. I think Gina would be really open to it as well, and then the goal today is just to sort of get your ideas, do a little brainstorming, and ask that we add it to the work plan. All right, so I did that real quick, just to save time. Do you please jump?
No, you got it.
And yeah,
Clarifying questions and then.
yes. Oh, sorry, yes. So any clarifying questions from the EQC? Sounds good.
Can move into public comment.
Please, let's
Okay.
move to public comment.
I'll make a call for public comment. If you are in the room, just raise your hand and we can get you queued up. If you're online, please press the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen or next to your name, or press *9 and we can unmute you for your 3-minute public comment. Not seeing any in the room. Liz, do we see any online? No. Okay. I will return the meeting to you, Chair.
Okay, when we open it up for EQC discussion.
There might be some questions of equity here in a different kind of sort of an angle. I mentioned to you before that, about it being limited to Oakville. So there are, 4 other schools in the MPCSD. There are 5 school districts in the city of Menlo Park. There are 6 or 8 private schools. And so that could become quite a bit of a task to make sure that all the 4th graders have a chance. And so what comes to mind is the youth committee.
Advisory.
Thank you, the YACA, I think they call themselves, and that they might be a suitable sort of mechanism to ensure access to this program for everybody, like, so, Ms. Ward is a phenomenal teacher. She's at the Oakville campus. Kristen used to be at the Oakville campus. Sometimes things can kind of go down a track, certain people in certain schools kind of building something, but then spanning it out across the other, campuses and schools can be a little harder. And I thought we might get in front of that and think about ways to either run it through YACA or be able to open it up to all 4th graders in the city through an open call, or somehow, so make it more available before we go too far down the line, so that all 4th graders could have access to it.
Two quick things, well, 3 quick things. I think we're 4th graders, yes, but only because she's 4th grade teacher. She might pull in her previous classes, so it could be 4th and 5th. If people are interested. So I do think through John's helpful comments in that discussion, it was, let's make it available in the beginning to whoever wants to participate. We put it in here. I think this is obviously for the subcommittee to decide. I'll give you my first reaction to the Youth Advisory Commission. That actually feels like, to me, on first read, that takes it in the opposite direction, meaning there's only 7 of them or whatever, 11. So that restricts it. I would rather have 50 kids, and because it's important to bring it into the classroom versus a superstructure outside of the classroom. What I think Nancy and I experienced was they did projects, like ocean cleanup, and it was a styrofoam boat, and like it was amazing. And you knew they had spent time discussing it. So I would say, if I put my thumb on the scale a tiny bit, I wouldn't want it to be run through a commission that is very small, when the goal is actually to bring it to classrooms first, have it very wide, and then maybe how they come back to us as a smaller group. That's totally cool. But I wouldn't want to constrict it. So that's just some initial thoughts, but obviously.
I probably misunderstood. So how is this from the beginning going to be available to all 4th graders in the city?
So what we can do, and not to design the program on the fly, but what we can do is obviously look at what Ms. Ward comes up with, share that with the superintendents and say, all right, this is a template, this is a pilot, this is what we think would make sense. Obviously, you have to work to get it into curricula and all the other stuff. So there's a lot of complexity on the school side. But having them do the work that they do and then giving it to the other schools to opt in is probably the simplest way to do that. And then having the superintendent support the idea of opting in is really a good starting point.
Okay.
Giving them the tools to make it easy.
Right.
And then the interface to us in the city is the part that the subcommittee would actually have to figure out. Because we also don't want 74th graders and we're.
Yeah, I misunderstood. So I'm sorry. I read it the first time. I misunderstood. I had thought it'd been a direct program where the students would be coming in and sort of working on projects with us. And what you're describing is a far more rich program where there's a curriculum around it that's being taught in the classroom. And then we're sort of a touch point or a readout.
Potentially, I think we want to be careful because creating curriculum is really challenging. And there's lots of, we won't bore you with the details, but there's lots of rules around everything else. So we would need the guidance of real teachers in real classrooms to do that part. And I think all we're saying is we're willing to kind of meet them halfway as opposed to them knocking on our door and going, can we come in? How do we meet them halfway? And so I wouldn't want to prescribe what the school part looks like. We need the experts to tell us what makes sense. And then we meet them halfway with the engagement part.
Okay, so with regard to the engagement part from us, this commission representing the whole city, how do we make this program available to all fourth graders? And you're saying that it would depend upon whether or not their teacher decided to participate.
Teacher and then the superintendent, yeah,
Got
teacher opt in and then the superintendent supporting. So we feel like Kristen's gonna be pretty supportive. We feel like Gina they have a good relationship. It's the superintendent relationship to promote it hopefully is at least the first thoughts.
Okay, so it isn't something where like we're sort of calling in fourth graders to work straight with us. We're just sort of a readout point on it.
Potentially, yeah, we need to construct it. Yeah, and we're definitely not, to be super clear, we're not proposing, hey, we're gonna create sustainability curricula for every school district. Like that would be a bit of a nightmare, so.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but that would be amazing, but no.
That'd be great.
No, my concern is just that if we, as the Environmental Quality Commission, are engaging with students in the city, then we need to engage with students in the city.
Totally agree.
And so I have no idea how to do that because it's a big city. But if we're just sort of doing something with one class of students, that's not what I.
Yeah, she's the pilot. She's the way to sort of help us get it right. And then it'll change. I mean, the way I've experienced these kind of things is what works in her classroom won't work in a higher grade level, what works in a higher grade level won't work for the different school. So, yeah, it's not something we do overnight.
Building up, Commissioner Hill, I share some of what I hear is our concern, and I totally understand the importance to start with a pilot, but it seems to me it's important to start with more than one. Because what works in District 5, it may not work.
Yeah, and honestly.
And once the ball starts rolling, adjusted a bit in one direction.
Yeah, and there are a lot of private schools.
Yeah.
And it's a big scope.
Well, and one of the first things that we did, I mean, just to sort of, to your point about multiple pilots, I think it's the third or fourth one is really once we feel okay about putting in a work plan, I think getting Kristen on the line, getting Gene on the line, getting the superintendents actually come together and the schools come together in what's called a community trust, which is a community gathering every quarter. So they do have networks and relationships similar to other government groups. So I feel like we can disseminate it amongst the school leadership and let them decide,
Yeah,
should we run a pilot in 2025?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make the decisions for the school because they're all so different, like you said, but we.
But maybe
Yeah,
you would present at that quarterly,
Totally.
yeah.
Community trust.
Have them at ground zero, at the first step, giving them, yeah.
And we want them to own it. Like the other thing is we're coming up with the idea, but the fact that this board really drove this and is driving it, we're just trying to figure out, like, we don't want her to have to push her way to the table. We want to try to figure out how can we meet that there.
Yeah, so based on the letters that were sent by the fourth graders, fourth graders in particular are going to be writing about things that they see in their world. So while they were addressing these letters to the EQC and to the city council, the vast majority of things they were talking about, we have no jurisdiction over. About, heating and cooling in their classrooms, food waste on campus. So whoever's taking this on, I would encourage you all to structure it so that it's not, so that their voices actually get heard within the systems that they're already a part of.
Yeah.
And encouraging the superintendents to listen and to actually act and make sure they. So I think there's a long-term thing, right? There's the bond possibility that's actually going to address some of the concerns the student raised, but it's a long horizon to make changes.
Well, and also just for a data point, and this is where it all starts to converge, at least in my head. So we're John and I are helping the school. The bond is the first part of the climate action plan for the school. So this is a block in the chain to say, all right, if they're gonna, how can we as city people who already have a climate action plan and are working on this, how can we help advise, how can we help guide? I don't think Angela Evans is on that group, but so like they've got a lot of really good experts to help them develop this, and this is just one more kind of brick in the wall
I
about.
guess what I would encourage, if the students are having an opportunity to voice, maybe even educating them, like, which things do they need to go up the chain on the school side?
Yeah.
Which things maybe go, to the city,
Right.
maybe which things go to their parents, there could be a bunch of different things. I think it could be very frustrating if they are writing to us and we're like, we have no jurisdiction over that.
Yeah.
And it might be frustrating for us too, to have put in so much energy and then. not be able
Which is
to
why I
actually
think
make
the collaborative effort is the key, right? It's sort of, we're not dictating to the schools aren't dictating to us, we sort of kind of. That's why we had a coffee play was, we just.
Yeah.
What's gonna work for you? What might work for us? It's still very early days. It's
Okay.
okay.
And also it could be redirected toward the students having a voice in that climate action plan being built.
Which I think she's open to.
That seems totally appropriate.
Totally
I
appropriate.
think that excites that excites that group. We're just focused on the bond.
Yeah.
Because it's November 5th, so, yeah.
Well, and I love the idea of young people, well, people of all ages, but, having their voice be heard as we're thinking about our climate action plan and all of our projects and stuff, so.
And there are, yeah.
Questions, please? Well, so I think. So the call is, do we want to add to the work plan, right? That's the.
Yeah, we don't need to take a motion. It's just helps have this discussion, then we can go into the work plan item next.
Do we want to form a subcommittee?
That could be,
Aren't we doing that as part of the work plan anyway?
Well, this is not part of the work plan currently, so maybe we could do, if everybody's okay, we could potentially take a quick bio break and then. Do the work plan, but make sure we don't forget this, like. Add this plus a subcommittee. Does that sound okay to everybody?
sounds good.
Everybody want-
I think it could be part, but I think there is something in the work plan about community engagement, so this can be part of that.
Yeah, I love that because it's a different group.
Recess?
Yeah.
How long would you like? Till 8:05 maybe?
4 minutes and 37 seconds.
Perfect. All right, great. Thanks.
To stop in the
Okay.
Yeah, all right, so why don't we go to item B4, which is the approval of the fiscal year 2024-2025 agenda, calendar and the work plan. So I think at this point, why don't we pull that up and then invite the ad hoc subcommittee that worked on this to give us the presentation.
Didn't you guys for that? Well, you were away.
Yeah, we presented last meeting, got a lot of good feedback, and worked together a little bit over the last month to put that all on the agenda. A lot of great suggestions.
Yeah, I think the things to highlight are the subcommittees that we're anticipating forming, and then Rachel did a good job taking the various topics that we wanted to cover and fit them into the calendar. So the proposal today is to go through that calendar and see if everybody's in sync, but those are the right subcommittees and those are the right timing for the various subcommittee board outs. That makes sense.
That's perfect. And I was thinking just if I can offer being really intentional and really thinking like, are we going to talk about it this month? Because a lot of how this is built out into the calendar is led by the subcommittees. And so thinking about, what subcommittees we can sign up for and the timing. And if this seems like a good path forward for the year, the ad hoc subcommittee took an initial pass at identifying commissioners to be on each of the subcommittees just to expedite our conversation today based on interests that have been expressed, but hope you all didn't find that presumptuous.
It's a straw man.
Yeah. So feel free to,
Yeah, so why don't we first go through the subcommittees that we've identified? This came from our collective conversations leading up to this, like what were the topics we wanted to cover? So we took that as a starting point. We went through kind of some iterations of triaging and combining to try to get it down to a workable number of topics. And then if we, as Rachel identified, we knew who had expressed interest in some of these, so we put in placeholders. If your name is next to a subcommittee that you don't want to be on, feel free to strike your name. And conversely, if there's a subcommittee that your name is not on, please feel free to volunteer for it. So let's go through first just the list of the subcommittees, which correspond to initiatives that we want to have as priorities going into the next fiscal calendar year. So distributed energy resources is one. And as you can see, for each of these, we have the scope, identify and implement programs that can increase the amount of solar and battery storage in Menlo Park. The second one is Heritage Tree Ordinance Administrative Guidelines and the ad hoc subcommittee. Third is community education and engagement. And so to your point, this could potentially fit within that, or maybe it would be its own subcommittee. Next one, transportation. So this was meant to, as we know, in the last year, we focused on EVs and EV charging, but we also recognize in subsequent conversations that there are other elements of transportation that we want to cover, like public transit, cycling, walking, to reduce vehicle miles traveled. And so that, even as we electrify our fleet, if we can just reduce travel, period, that's a good thing. And then the last one was water pollution and conservation. Maybe there's one more after.
there's more.
Yes. I was saying
Yeah.
climate resilience, which we had talked about earlier. We wanted to make sure we cover single-use plastics, existing building and ADU electrification policies. So those were we tried to count, like, it's a long list already, and it was a longer one before we went through the triage process. So I guess the first ask I would have to this group is, does that feel like the right priorities and the right number? And if it's the right priorities, but there's too many, which one might we want to defer, one or two, we might want to defer to follow on years? Are there ways to combine some of them so that, it's more manageable, or does this feel comfortable? And once we've got that agreed to, then let's look at the scope and the membership for the subcommittee. So let's kind of go through this from start to finish. Do we all agree? But each topic, so distributed energy resources, do we feel like that's an important topic for us to cover next year? Anybody feel like that can be deferred? Okay, so that's a keeper. Heritage tree ordinance, given all the conversations we've had recently, I think we're all in support of that. Community education and engagement, there were a number, as you can see in this description of scope, there were a lot of conversations around topics that led into this notion of how do we engage with the community more. And I in particular was kind of tuned into this after talking to some of the other organizations in and around the city, like Peninsula Clean Energy, where we said, what is the city uniquely capable of doing? We can do permitting, we can do coding, and we can do engagement and communication. Right, so let's focus as an EQC on the things that we are in a unique position to do. So as you saw in our recommendations from last year, for example, there were areas where we said, this is not something the EQC or the city should take on. There are other statewide or county level initiatives that are addressing this. Our role is more about communication and education, for example, or permitting or streamlining permitting or building codes or whatever. But let's not do, for example, financial incentives for EVs and EV charging. There's others that are doing that. It's not. So I think the community engagement to me feels like a pillar of what in general the EQC should be doing for any topic that we take on. So community engagement, can cover a number of the priority areas that we have.
I have thoughts on that one.
Okay.
Is it okay to?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
So my experience, having kind of gone deep in this a couple of years ago, the feedback that we got back from the city was that our job, and we could possibly update our job, but that's kind of a big deal, is to advise this city council that then tells staff what to do with regard to community education. So we kind of hit I think initially Jeff and I were on this subcommittee and we thought our job was to educate and we were being encouraged to educate residents, but we couldn't do it as EQC.
Got it.
But that has now been happening as part of these other organizations like 350, Silicon Valley, Menlo Park Climate Team, and Menlo Spark and PCE. So it's been more like people who care about that are going in these other areas. And then if we want to make more recommendations, to staff or city council, and then go to staff, there could be a thing, but I feel like we've talked about it a lot. And I feel like city staff is in a different place now. Like they have a community engagement person. We've got a fully staffed sustainability team. So I'm not sure how much more there is to do here as EQC, unless we do it more like the school thing.
Well, yeah, so maybe one good way to think about this is that we know that for the various initiatives that we're championing, the community engagement is kind of a superset that should be applied to all the initiatives that we undertake and what guidance and suggestions and benchmarking we can provide to city staff to say, if we're going to do an EV program, a heat pump program, heritage tree program, how do we engage with the community?
Yeah, so some like meta thing.
Yeah.
And even,
As opposed to it's not a subcommittee itself. It's just something we build into how we address topics of interest.
that makes sense.
I'd be fine taking this one off based on what you told.
Or it could be related to metrics, which we talk about a lot with great passion and isn't on the list. Or it could be related to schools.
Okay.
I'm open to any of those.
So what I think, no, I'd say, let's not take it off the list because there's a couple of ideas, I think, in the discussion on this one that I know I would want to chime in with, so. So I'd say let's keep it up so we can.
But like maybe something we need to shape a little bit more.
Adjust the scope to feed.
Yeah.
There was one idea that had floated around initially in the subcommittee, and it could fit into here, which was a bit about making it more visible what the electrification benefits were for different properties in the city. Because we do have that. There are things that the city has that nobody else has. So all the permits are city specific. You can go to a particular house and find out their heat pump water heaters, their solar panels, their batteries and stuff. And that's something that only the city. And the thought was here in the context of, my thought was, I know that the CEC, the California Energy Commission, is very interested in making it more visible, the electrification assets of a property. And eventually they want to also encourage improvements on that and have regulations of. And that's something that we could do. I'm not saying that this is what we should look at it.
Is
I
there-
don't think that this, only the city knows.
Are there any privacy issues associated? I mean, 'cause
That information is public.
it's already,
You can go to Axilla today and you can find out all of them. I've done it.
okay, because I mean, from a behavioral economics perspective, that community validation, that your neighbors are doing things helps to get people over the hump.
Yeah, when I looked into this, the city of Portland, it's a requirement in the city of Portland, if you are going to put a property on the market, they have to have the information about electrification in the property.
Yeah, but I'm thinking beyond that, like you go to a a city-run website and you can just see it.
Yeah.
Look in my neighborhood, gosh, I didn't realize how many people had hot water heaters.
I agree.
Heat pumps.
For sake of time, why don't we keep, like, we're creeping into discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so we'll keep it on.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is stuff that only the city. knows.
All right, so we need to revise the scope. Transportation. Folks feel that that's,
But that would only be with complete streets and planning and
correct,
like we would try to tackle that.
correct, yep. Water pollution prevention, conservation.
Well, yeah,
Right.
well, I see that artificial grass is sort of mixed into that, so. That was, artificial grass specifically was something that I was passionate about having a subcommittee, but I wasn't. So all this other scope is new, I was just curious how it kind of got connected. Was that?
Question for you, I think we were trying to group things.
Yeah.
Is artificial grass closer to the single-use plastic from your perspective?
Okay.
We're
Yeah,
just
like,
trying to reduce the number of.
yeah, like Eduardo said, I think we had a number of related. And we're trying to group them into
Okay.
a smaller bucket of, number of buckets. But yeah, we could move, artificial grass into plastics. Right. That would cause you to want to be on one of these committees. Is it, I mean, it is a good question. We don't have any designate commissioner members on this. And so that's one way to know whether we want to move forward on this. And it's not that it's a good or bad idea, but we do have a long list. And if we aren't going to be able to get at least a couple commissioners to sign up to do it, maybe it tells us that we're going to defer this one.
Yeah, because the boy is what.
So John, if we were to move the artificial turf to single-use plastics and rename that.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that would want to keep the water usage one active for this year?
I mean, I really like all the ideas,
Right,
but
there's only so much.
yeah.
Okay, so why don't we strike that one?
Okay, and I'll offer too that when we think about single-use plastics from like the city perspective, we often think about it as stormwater pollution prevention because we have the state mandate to prevent plastics from going into the bay. So perhaps we could still retain the stormwater pollution prevention as part of the ad hoc subcommittee and artificial grass with the applicant.
Okay.
The impact of plastics on the environment.
Yeah.
Oh, I like to do caps, but we don't do caps. Okay,
Oh, I do too.
I know.
You must have corrected all mine then, because that's what I did them. I think I had.
I mean, it's like a style. format for the
There's no
city.
style guide. Nobody said.
Oh, I'll send you all that.
Actually, a font and font size too.
We're using it, yeah.
Okay.
It's true, all the documents do look alike.
Okay.
Did I hear someone else's name in this one? Yeah, or We can circle back to that during
Yeah,
discussion.
let's just get the rest of it.
Yes,
If you repeat.
thank you.
On the, just in case you, to skip it, we skipped over the resilience and adaptation. Because it's now cap 6. Does it need a subcommittee?
If we're gonna do any work on it, yeah.
We can go back to that one.
Which one?
The Climate Change Resilience and Adaptation Ad Hoc Subcommittee. And the focus of this one would be on the adaptation plan. Developing that or providing recommendations to help staff develop that.
So scrolling down, existing ADU. Electrification policies and. Any, do we have, so we do have. Kind of, Hill Park both, you still feel that's something you want to?
I think it's a real problem, but I don't. At some point.
I mean, don't today, new construction ADUs require electrification?
I don't think so.
No.
No,
You can do a lot of things. Avoiding, I mean, ADUs just goes straight through.
Okay.
Except if it's on top of the heritage tree.
Yeah,
Well, it's
yeah,
interesting
no, they
because
do.
I did look into an ADU and at least one of the ADU building. Contractors told me I would have to have all electric. When was that? 6 months ago. Yeah, things have changed. Oh, because of the Berkeley thing? Oh, wow. Okay, so does this get addressed by the belts and suspenders then? I mean, do we need a separate subcommittee, I guess, on this? If it's covering new construction of any kind, why would the ADU be any different?
that's
I thought it was new.
Because there's a discussion going to city council in the next couple of months, right?
so yeah, it might have been ADUs in the perspective of like renovation, remodels, improvements. Like if you're converting a garage or a pool house or something.
Right, but doesn't an ADU get treated like new construction?
Correct.
I think the meaningfulness of this subcommittee is that the state code will be official later this year. And then there would be an opportunity for the city to decide, do they want to incorporate a reach code that goes beyond the state code, which isn't official yet.
And will the state code require full electrification of ADUs or?
So the state code basically has sort of, basically what the state code is the single margin approach that we've talked about. That's the anticipated state code.
So if we want to do belts and suspenders, that would be a reach code. Okay.
Might I offer that what we're bringing to council is new construction only, not existing buildings. So if we're thinking equipment change out, remodels, renovations, we would want to get EQC's policy perspective on that before moving forward.
That was my question as well, like this feels like a weird combination of existing building and ADU, which is typically a lot of new build. So what percentage would this be?
At least in my question was, existing building was. Because some of the regulation is for new building, and then there's a different one when you're doing a renovation. So if you're doing renovation, then the rules that apply are different. So the reason I was putting it here is a lot of things happen as remodeling. I mean, essentially change everything and it's remodeled. And then the rules on.
Why don't we do something really quick? I'm just realizing we sort of, chair.
Yeah, we're kind of in the.
We're in the discussion, which is great. I mean, because we're kind of doing the work, so we haven't done clarifying questions and public comment.
Okay.
So if everybody's okay, why don't we take public comment?
Yeah.
Good idea. That's all right. Yeah. So
That sounds great. I will make call for public comment.
Clarification first.
Yeah.
So we're done with.
I think we can do
We're clarifying it.
Great. We'll move into public comment. If you're in the room, you can just raise your hand and we'll give you your 3 minutes. If you're on Zoom, if you could press the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen or next to your name, or you can press *9 if you are calling in from a landline. We'll give you a second online and by phone Do you see any was online? Nope. Okay. Return the meeting to you.
Fantastic. So we continue, we keep the discussion.
So what I would suggest as the next step is let's go through each of them and at least get two council members to agree to be on these committees. And if we can't get these two, then we know that that will get deferred.
But do we have to have two though? Because I'm wondering, like I
Well,
want
if somebody's willing to do it as one, that's fine. I think it's from personal experience, it's kind of hard to do it just as one. You need some collaboration, but if somebody's willing to sign up as a single committee member, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. We have an example of one committee member, Leah Elkins, who got the leaf blower ban.
Oh, really?
She did that all herself.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so if you're passionate
impressive.
about it, you can.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. So you can bring her in for training.
You call her for moral support.
Yeah. All right, so the first one we have right now, three of us. Tentatively identified. Does anybody else want to join this, or anybody who's on the list doesn't want to be on this?
Three's the max, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so but those that are on it now are okay to stay on it.
I'm interested.
Great. Okay, next one, Heritage Tree.
And that one's already been formed.
Okay, so that's done. Community education. So if it's gonna be school related, I will remove my name from this. So I'm happy to put yours on.
Well, I want to, for other reasons, I want to be a little careful about not. Really? Yeah, so,
I wonder if we should come back to this one and.
well, I just wanted to put a thought out here as so we can plant a seed. And I think part of the work would be discussions with Rachel and the city about what this would look like. I actually think this is a bigger need for the entire city, this whole mystery of outreach and communication and everything else. And so two things combined in my head. One was, we had a lot of folks who applied for commissions who didn't get seats. Who were really talented, and a lot of folks who want to be part of the city. So I forget the numbers, but it was something like 30 openings, 50 applied, or whatever the numbers were. What if we treated this potentially as exploring, forming a new commission in the city for outreach and education that would span? And so the exploration with Rachel would have to be, and others would be, would they be comfortable giving up a portion of their outreach to get more citizens actually involved in a new? Because it's, Judy said, sorry, the city clerk, Judy said it's not unheard of. Commissions form, commissions disband. So one way to potentially solve this is research what would it take to set up a new citywide commission, and then everybody could participate. Hopefully we'd get our fair share of support from that citizen commission. So that's just one idea, because we've struggled with, like, given the limited amount of bandwidth as a singular commission, we don't want to take Rachel and staff away from all this other stuff. So one way around that is a new citywide commission where 10 citizens are working, and they have to go find the resources. So it's,
So my initial interest in this was, beyond any one initiative, like I'm, and maybe the city hasn't, I don't know, but the fact that I don't think we have an email address for everybody in the city. We don't have a text, phone number for everybody in the city. We can't let people subscribe to certain kinds of information on a regular basis. And I'm dealing with this in District 5 because I've created a community engagement platform. I follow what Portola Valley's doing. And we now have a Sharon Heights Community Association website, and it's got email and content and services and.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
But I think you're
there's
hitting
like-
on exactly the point.
So it's like, to me, I think there's this fantasy or fallacy that if we put it up on the city website, people will engage with it. And I just don't, we're just too busy.
Totally, yeah.
But if we had communication modality that reaches people where and when and how they want to be communicated with, then I think the city would have an easier time getting citizen engagement.
And I think honestly, to build on that, with the report with city council, I had a few takeaways from that, but I do think city council appreciates the EQC's hands-on nature and innovative nature and leadership in pushing these issues. So whether it's a comfortable discussion to have or not, as an EQC, the ability to bottom up innovate and put it in front of the city council to say, hey, you know, we're all struggling with outreach for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. So I wanted to put that.
So if the scope was then to explore and make a recommendation for a new city commission or citizen engagement, I would happily sign up for that.
Yeah.
Can we expand that a bit more, not just necessarily a new city commission, but
Okay,
ways in which the city can encourage?
true, fair enough, yeah. it may
I
not
mean,
have- it
I
may not
totally
have
could
to be-
see taking what your idea and making it into the will. I would love to.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to share it, yeah.
But I mean, one thought about this is that how are we going to get the resource? How would that new commission get the resources like staff people to work with that? Even that.
But there's a dedicated comms person in the city who, I don't know where's she roll up? Stephen?
Yeah, she's in the city manager's office.
I mean, it's purely exploratory, right? I think to Nancy's point, we're gonna continue to struggle with this piece because
I agree.
it's a trade-off of asking Rachel to go ride a bicycle around and talk about leaf blowers like Rebecca did. Versus like she were riding a bicycle and just doing all that and like that's, you know, do we want you guys working on that or would we rather you like doing some of the bigger pieces?
Yeah, I mean, a version of this one, I mean, I've been wanting to be able to do and will show how much of our electricity is generated by us.
Yeah.
Through solar panels, right? And I could do that by hand, just going through and Google and trying to do this thing, but we could do it through a platform. So if the city provided an open data kind of thing,
Yeah.
there are enough techies around here that can actually build something.
And I'd rather have 7 really fired up citizens, just like us, going off and working with the city to make it happen. And then we get our share of whatever those platforms are, whatever those lists are, there's a lot of nonprofits that I think would be happy to join in and, you know, extend we're kind of doing it ad hoc right now.
I think it's a great point. I mean, we've surfaced an issue that we are feeling, but you know, when I hear about the planning commission getting frustrated because they try to reach out to people and then they make a decision and then everybody comes in, or the parks department, whatever.
Or salary.
And they come back and it's like, well, I didn't know about this. Now, you know, you need to change your mind. I need a voice. It's like I think every commission, every department wrestles with that. Citizen engagement only happens after the fact.
And the fact that they didn't shoot down the idea of we're gonna work cross commission or, you know, those forward looking things in the presentation. We want to work cross commission. We want to work, you know, we want to work with students. We want to do these things that weren't necessarily EQC specific. I think there's an appetite. Anyway, so I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I feel like we could make that really interesting.
And I think if it's overall about the city strategy and making recommendations around that I feel like that would be really useful for the city.
Well, helping other commissions communicate, they communicate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Could this be a cross commission ad hoc committee?
We could, I don't know what that was.
Pull in some victims, I mean, volunteers from.
Well, we wouldn't, yeah, could we do that? Can we do a subcommittee that pulls in other?
And subcommittee can talk to whomever, please.
I'll ask.
That's true, that's right.
Yeah, check in with the clerk.
Yeah. So we could reach out to people we know in other commissions.
Like spend some time with Sally about how tough it was to get zero votes, the clean zero, so, yeah, so, like, you know, and I'm sure you'll get a whole download.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
All right, so who's interested in that?
I'll sign up for that one. Anybody else? Sounds like you want.
And you're signing.
Sure, they're there. They got 3
all total.
You put your name on there.
So do we want to remove the student outreach from this one and maybe consider another ad hoc subcommittee for student?
That seems appropriate.
Yeah. Because that's a different.
So can.
See them.
No,
Okay.
Do you want to take my
I do not. I had another naming idea.
Oh, okay,
Oh, go.
No, it's actually the names.
okay.
I'm just putting this here so I don't lose it, in case there's other language you want to copy and paste. And then do you want to do the school one at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start with the one we have. Okay, so transportation, we have Baroka and Kenneth. Anybody else want to be on that? Are you two okay being on that? You want to be on that? one?
I'm not sure I have the bandwidth because I'm already on. two or
Okay,
three
I'm gonna
others.
take you off.
I have a busy July 25. No, I don't. Well, I guess I would.
Take McKenna off. Okay. Right,
Maybe when July 25 rolls around, there might be people who want to jump on that subcommittee.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Because we would form it in like April or
Six months or something.
The idea is to form it now, actually, with these timelines, and then if we can always add people though through emotions.
There's a duration, 2 months.
It would start in,
Okay, form it now, but then it kicks in.
yeah, in May, 2025, yeah.
I can be available in May.
She's on it.
Oh, we are right. Yeah. Okay,
One.
resilience and adaptation. Chair Schmidt, any other volunteers?
I'm okay going solo.
Okay,
We'll do it how we're having.
all right. Very good. Plastics. Anyone want to join Vice Chair McKenna?
I can offer that we have a group of citizen climate lobby students who are super jazzed to work with you.
Okay,
So
that's good.
you'll have a team.
Good. Let's see. ADUs.
Is it electrification or is it ADUs?
Yeah, this one's still a little confusing.
How did it get on the, what's the genesis of it being put on there?
It was one of the discussion topics. You may recall, we did a brainstorming session like 2 sessions ago. And we then tried to like synthesize the 20 ideas into, manageable number. And this was one.
Could it be,
John, I think you were one of the ones who was advocating for this, at least the ADU portion of
could
it.
it be, evaluation?
Well, maybe
I
you.
think ADUs came from Commissioner Pilgrim.
No,
Could it be broader, like evaluation of upcoming state electrification codes or something like, as it applies to all building types?
Yeah, so it's
At least,
reach code review in view of upcoming state codes.
so Rachel, is it always the case that reach codes are taking optional features on the code and then making them mandatory? Right?
Mhm. And I think maybe specifying it's like breach codes for electrification.
Well, I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
like, we don't have to form this subcommittee now. So council's gonna have a study session in September. If they adopt everything we recommended, we're good.
Good point.
Have we already recommended?
Yeah,
Did that cover ADU?
because we covered everything. It was a catch-all.
That's a good
Yeah.
point, because we
Because
can form a subcommittee.
one of the concerns I have with ADU is that
Correct.
it seems like there is and you should do it Monday. ADU, like you cannot put blocks. I don't understand it.
I mean, maybe.
Well, I would just say that the building decarbonization ad hoc subcommittee's recommendation to EQC, which EQC approved, was for this dual coverage approach for every building in the city.
Including remodel.
Everything, yes.
New, existing.
Yeah, life science.
Dog houses.
Because things like a heritage tree. I mean, you have been told you cannot do it, right? Because it's a statement.
You can't do what?
You cannot deny some of these things because of heritage tree, because the state law says you shall approve this.
I'll be ignorant, I don't know the nuance of ADUs, so.
But to your point, Rachel just confirmed, we don't have to form every subcommittee now.
Yeah,
So
so let's see what.
Okay.
Okay, so let's hold it on, let's strike that one. Let's see that like you did in the other one,
Oh, let's see.
in the comments or whatever, it goes to the other one.
So in which case, I'm happy to go back on the transportation subcommittee. And I'd be happy to help Jeff on resilience.
Good.
What is the transportation subcommittee timeline, July?
And then resilience, you
Cause
said?
I'm gonna be done by.
So a small bit, sorry for, so can we not call it youth, can we call it student?
Oh, sure.
I don't want, personal preference if there is a good, I just don't want city council to default to, oh, we've already got a youth thing, like it, and that's not the intent, right? Because-
So for the
So we're not-
plastic subcommittee, like, I can start researching now, I just can't talk to myself.
So we're no longer having the whole electrification thing subcommittee because we're gonna wait and
The city-
decide how appropriate it is. Okay, got it. 'Cause,
Okay, so it sounds like we've agreed what the subcommittees are. Now we need to go back to the calendar. And for the ones that we deleted, replace them with the ones that we added.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add myself to the student engagement?
Absolutely.
And actually, we can lift and shift the language, Rachel, if it's okay. I think to establish a subcommittee, it's to identify opportunities, recommend programs, and discuss ways.
Ooh, that's great.
Students.
Students.
I don't know if that's redundant, but.
Scroll back up and just go back through the whole edited list. I sort of feel like
So how many do
that.
we have in total now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's scroll down a little more. 5, 6, 7. Big 7. We started out with 8. Or we started out with 7.
We said at 8.
Right. We did.
So do most commissioners end up doing 2 or 3? How does that?
There's a, I don't know, there's a norm.
Oh.
Given the number that we have, I think I'm going to try to be at least on 2.
And did you want to look at the calendar?
Are we light
Can
on any of them?
we go slow,
Okay.
just through them again?
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, are they light right now, you think?
We have at least 2 on all but 1.
And what's the one?
Plastics, talk to himself about plastics.
Well, I'm pro plastic.
Let me know when you want me to
Yeah,
scroll.
we'll scroll.
Back up the calendar. So some of the calendar items are recurring independent of our subcommittees. And Rachel's already integrated those in, like, for example, the arborist report. So we're basically just talking about things that we want to do that are subcommittee based. So, I guess it looks like we're doing the final draft today so that in the next meeting we can approve it. Is that right, Rachel?
Yes.
So we're on track so far.
Actually, just edit that.
What's,
Can I?
is that thing, are you deleting that thing in August? Approved?
Oh, if we don't, the thought was we'd approve it in August. Okay, finalize
This
it.
is the working session that will be finally approved.
Are we able to comment?
Absolutely.
I was just thinking on the student committee, we have it for September. But I'm just wondering if we should move it to October because I feel like there's gonna be some engagement with the schools and superintendents and we,
Yeah.
We may not have much time to talk to them over the summer since school's out. What do you think?
I think, yeah, I think we need, I think we need more time. I think we need more time than less.
Can we move that to October? From September? Because October looks light.
I don't think it's on, well,
Oh,
could we
yeah.
change
Could we
that
change it, yeah.
to form the outreach,
Yes, we can do it in October.
yeah, and then the September one actually wasn't student. Remember, we changed it to
Oh, right,
committee for
right.
form a new commission.
My bad.
Which I think is probably just a handful of discussion to Judy and other folks, right? So. So in September,
Yeah, sorry, I confused you.
Did I get it wrong?
I had you remove something that I got confused on, so that this
Do you want me
community
to put it back?
engagement is supposed to stay as, yeah.
well, we would change that to forming a new citywide commission.
But that, we kept that name for the ad hoc subcommittee.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think.
That's what I think you were
One
noodling
thing
on.
Laura said was, let's not limit it to only forming a new commission.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, there could be other mechanisms to achieve our goal.
I thought, yeah.
Okay. And then November, no meeting due to holiday. December is when we would hear recommendations from the solar and battery. That sounds right. And then January, we have our required zero emission landscape equipment voucher program and policy report out. And a review of the single-use plastics ad hoc subcommittee.
Except it's just the plastics subcommittee.
Yeah, it's called, I think it's called stormwater. It's, I'll update this. thing.
Okay. You know,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry for throwing a rando in here, but do we still need to have discussions about how to spend the second part of the 4.5 from the Josh Lemon?
That will come up.
Oh, okay, all right.
Sorry.
Okay, maybe it's just.
I think this one is. Is it? Yep, this one's it. Update on building occupation outreach
Oh, okay, I
education.
just didn't write it. Maybe could we like,
Yeah, we could change it.
well, just maybe parentheses.
4.5 million.
4.5 million, part two.
I know it's
Yeah,
people's attention. Definitely want to be.
Did we spend it?
Well, put that next to a few more items.
So,
And depending on how quickly we're spending the money with PCE, if it's going really slow, we may move it up so we can come up with a plan B.
Yes.
Okay, let me pop back up. So February would be, we would actually need something because we don't have the reach codes anymore.
So it's not already slotted. We have all in the calendar now.
This, yeah, we do.
Valentine's Day party.
Yeah, and that we could also bring in like other departments to make presentations or,
We have the transportation and planning people come in and talk about their.
oh, yeah,
ways to
yeah, it
reduce
could be
vehicle
interesting.
miles.
When is the,
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Pop off that.
yeah, and then, okay. And maybe we could even consider like joint meeting.
Yeah.
those are getting so sophisticated. Do that in the topic.
Yeah,
Or the $4.5 million in bond.
yes.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Come help us spend some money.
Okay, and then March, we have the climate action plan progress report. And you know, I'm also thinking for February, it might be helpful to circle back to that metrics conversation.
Yes, and we're gonna have someone come from the Sustainable San Mateo.
They're coming in October.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Have we had PCE for them in the past?
No, not my.
I've seen them in recordings, yeah.
We talked about the
Oh, right.
The PV, Gov PV.
Yeah, like it's
Where-
part of another agenda item. Yeah, they have, yeah, kind of played a role of like a staff.
I'm wondering if having them present, programs that, Menlo Park can help with, whether it's through communications or codes or permitting or whatever, or have initiatives where they need city support.
They're presenting to the city council on August 27th.
Oh, there.
So maybe there'd be an outcome from that. I'll be their CEO, so maybe there's an opportunity for program staff to come.
I mean, if there's a month that's light and if other, I mean, I personally, I think I've said this before, I feel we're so gifted to have PCE.
Yeah.
And, if giving them an opportunity to present to the EQC of programs they have upcoming and how we can help them be successful with.
I'm slotting it into December because the conversation around solar and battery relates.
We'll have to talk with them, eh?
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of ADR. If
And last month I announced the SGIP incentive or assistance program they're coming, that they're planning for.
What's SGIP?
SGIP, Self-Generation Incentive Program. It's the state program where money is available for homeowners to put solar on their homes free for low income, qualified folks. And PC is developing a program to assist those people that qualify for that program to know about it and to enroll in it and to get a better chance of winning those dollars that are out there. So they're planning.
Make sure we get our fair share of the state dollars.
Well, just the folks out there that are deserving of those funds are aware of the program and sort of have a one-stop shop to get on the application and.
Yeah, that's great.
Could we also add a February, maybe just as an informational topic, that we can always take something off, right? If it doesn't materialize.
Yeah, of course.
Climate bond. On the ballot in November, if it passes, I think we should try to figure out how to move quickly on what that might look like. How we can utilize that. That'll be a huge amount of money.
sorry, say it again?
The climate bond.
Oh.
It's going on the ballot. Yeah, Josh has got a couple pieces of legislation that might be interesting to talk about. But the climate bond's gonna be one of the biggest ones. If that passes in November,
That's a California-wide bond, separate from the school.
$10 billion, I think. Yeah. So
There's a school bond too.
Yeah, there's.
Just local to us.
Yeah, there's two.
Oh, no, there's a state.
Oh, okay.
There's a state and a local, there's a state and a local.
Okay.
So both made it on the ballot. They haven't done the wording. It's not got a
Yeah.
measured number and all that stuff, but
I think it's actually Prop 4.
is it?
The climate.
Would Josh come in and read out to us on it?
No. It would be more, as we understand what that is, as we understand the language, can we get first mover advantage by talking about it and planning? That, planning around it is more the idea. And obviously, yeah, well, just like we got, and he would totally support that. I mean, he, just like he did with the earmarks and stuff, he would totally support helping us get some of that. So good to discuss it quickly. Anyway, it's just an idea of, feels like about the right time to.
In February?
Yeah, and it's maybe a 15-minute discussion or a 20-minute discussion around the climate bond. If it passes, of course, if it doesn't, then. Be in our cups.
And that would be, would you need a present, it would just be a discussion?
Yeah, I think so.
Related to potential funding, I thought maybe under the other topics list, we should add something about urban forest management plan. If that money comes through, maybe there's a subcommittee to be formed to support that.
Or if not.
Or,
Maybe they're right. So you think we're there?
Can we go back up? I had a question on one of the road. In the calendar, so.
No.
Go down, it was below, it was the latter part of the year. Why is the Arbor's report May instead of July?
It was supposed to be. in
Every
May.
year, it seems to be on like a 13-month. So the first time it was April and then it was May and then July. So
Yeah,
maybe it should be next July.
we can do that.
It
Yeah.
was actually just a simple question. I didn't really. I was just curious, basically, because I just noticed it.
It got pushed from the June one because we were worried about quorum. and we wanted to make sure everyone was here, but
I'm fine keeping it back too, if it doesn't get to see. It's probably good to keep it in May too, because like if we put it in June, it's a pretty packed meeting today, both that one's report.
Well, I'm just appreciating the folks who went through all of this, figured out the subcommittees, the timing and having it so easily organized for us to be able to move through this pretty quickly. Thank you all.
Give us a lot of good raw material to work with.
You were a good listener last time.
What about the resilience and adaptation one as well? Rachel, did that pop up and I just missed it? I don't be interested.
It's,
what month?
quarters of the way down.
No, on the calendar. I think.
What calendar?
It's March 2025.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. That feels really soon, all right.
I feel soon.
It's fine, given everything we want to wrangle, but it's fine.
I mean, when I look at that subcommittee, it's like, that could include everything and the kitchen sink. If I was on the subcommittee, I want it more focused, but I'm not on the subcommittee, so I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bore everybody, it's getting late, but we created it to be a kitchen sink, but I think we take it in chunks and SVLG's interested, Josh is interested, like there are people who are gonna help, so like I think we're gonna have to check it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we actually feel like this is good, we could approve it tonight. And it's a working document. This one will go to the city council on September 24th for their review. But then after that, we can make minor edits.
Just pretty solid.
It feels solid too. And we're all here, so it's not like any voices are missing. Do we have stuff for August?
It would be the heritage tree ordinance. And I could move up the spur groundwater rise maybe.
Yeah, especially because the admin guidelines sounds like they might not be ready for discussion.
And why don't we, if everybody's okay with this, the heritage tree ordinance, knock on wood. I think it might be as we're pulling the urban forest management plan more into this working group, we'll know by August whether we have a budget or not. So my question
You think so?
about, like, they said July,
Oh, okay.
so they haven't kept their timelines too strict, but given the middle of the month, they said July, we'll know. The question that I was asking, what are we gonna do if?
Yeah.
And then that way we don't have to do our special and private.
Yeah.
Citizens brigade kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. Recommend updates and discuss CAL FIRE grant results.
Yeah. It's almost like next steps on the urban enforcement. Right, it's sort of like.
Can you talk more about this groundwater rise report presentation?
Oh, they, if you're on their email list, they sent out I think it was a report on East Palo Alto and ground. They had commissioned this very special report that went into great detail. I can send it to all of you. I think it was like in the almanac maybe. And obviously East Palo Alto and Bellhaven are a similar thing. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, Rachel, have you seen this? And maybe we can have them come in so that we could all be educated more about groundwater rise and all of the impacts. And she seemed to think that was a good idea. So that would be a great way for us all to educate ourselves and figure out how do we support and plug in as part of, you know, maybe connecting in with these other pieces that, you know, CAP 6.
Yeah, well, Spurs put out some other really valuable reports recently on avoiding panel upgrades, the cost of electrification, a whole toolkit for policymakers on things they can do to ease the transition to electrification. So I don't know if we want to like broaden their presentation to include everything they've worked on recently, or just keep it specific to groundwater, just throw it out there.
Well, I like the idea of them coming every couple of months and maybe talking about different things.
What does FIRST stand for?
Nobody knows.
Oh,
I think
Is
we
it-
abandoned the acronym.
statewide thing? Is it a national thing? Is it a local thing?
They're based in San Francisco. I don't know.
Okay, SPUR.
Yeah,
SPR.org. Ideas and actions for a better city.
yeah, it's a good mailing list to be on.
I have one more final idea and super strategic. I'm not sure how comfortable we be doing it, but I think it might be a smart thing to do. On the calendar, Rachel, like in June of next year. I think we're light, we've only got the work plan. I propose we do a brainstorming session around earmarks. Because given the success we had with our friends in Menlo Park and Josh. The reason I'm bringing this up is, so. Rep SU's looking at earmarks for quiet zone. Josh did there's money on the table and we're leaving it on the table. And I think if we plan early enough to go into 2026 to secure that federal money. Where we might have gaps, thinking adaptation resilience. I don't want to prejudge what that is, but I think. In June, if we have a strategic discussion about funding, given the budget gaps. And particularly focused around tapping our reps on the shoulder and going, hey, we want to get this on your radar.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's as easy as knocking on their door, and well, it's not that easy, but it's like just start the dialogue. So in June, because it's light and it's aligned to the work plan, I feel like that would be a nice complementary discussion. Doesn't have to be a big discussion, but and that the guidelines are loosey-goosey.
I mean, I'm wondering why wait? And can we get the people the city has contracted with to do the grant writing? Could they help us with?
Not on the federal outreach, because the grant writing and the federal stuff it's much more relationship based. I mean, Brian would know more, but it's much more relationship based. It's already kind of locked in for this year.
Okay.
Because the federal monies are February, did I get that right? February, March is when the federal monies are coming.
Are you looking over my shoulder?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but yeah, so I think the earmarks are kind of mentally decided by most reps.
Okay.
Probably about now, could we can ask the question.
Well, it seems like not a one-off thing, something that we should be very strategic about. And the city, maybe we make recommendations around this to city council and maybe they dedicate someone to really nurture these relationships so that it's not,
Totally, yeah.
you know, left to chance.
Well, it's less about the relationship. I think we do have good relationships with our reps. It's a lot more about, we just don't talk about it, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
only got the grant writer last year. Remember, we were
Right.
pushing about like, why don't we have a grant writer? You know, we were gonna write the darn grants because they didn't have it. So
Yeah.
I think it's about nudging the city to get that strategic funding. And I would love to get our fair share of environmental stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Is it something that we need to put like quarterly to check in? Because I don't know how we'll know what earmarks are available or.
It's not an availability thing though. Like every rep gets a certain amount of money to do with as they please. They tend to be city-based, they tend to be infrastructure. They tend to be large amounts of money, as we saw in PCE. So it's not a defined thing. It's sort of like, yeah, you get a little bit of money to spend in your communities as you please. So that's why it's a little loosey-goosey and.
But it's easier if they have ideas to respond to.
Right, yeah, so we would need to come to them and sit down with, like, we would potentially go to Josh first and then. You know, whoever they are, yeah, Josh and Mark, get them on board, and then we go to whoever the new rep for 13, it's not 13, whatever the
The
16.
new Anna.
What's Locardo's?
Yeah.
Is it 16? Yeah, the new Anna. But we've got a few around us as well, so, because we did this with Kana when I was down south, so it's not hard to get them.
Yeah, interesting. It seems like we might even need to create a subcommittee around this, like people who, I mean.
Maybe later, I'm just teeing up the strategic discussion at that point in time,
Okay.
because,
And it's not too late.
I mean, we could do it earlier, if we wanted to flip the Arborist report around, we could do it in May. Maybe we flip the Arborist report to June and we do funding in May.
I like that idea.
Already the arborist gets pushed.
Right.
Well, there's the difference between getting money.
Yeah.
Or an arborist report.
Yeah, well, it's a nice fit too, because we're gonna be talking about the 4.5 million, so.
How does that line up with the city budget discussions?
We'll be well wrapped up by that meeting.
But it's adjacent, right? I mean,
Yeah, there'll still be the public workshop
and
in
yeah,
May, yeah.
this is complimentary, right? It's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
it's not added. I'm sorry, it's added to the city budget. It's not dependent on the city. Meaning we don't do matches for federal.
But I think one of the challenges we've encountered is like, we get the money and then there's no one to actually
Right.
figure out how to
Right.
spend it. So it feels like it should be aligned if there's things we want to do as a city. And you all have, energy and like passion, and we all do, and then we're like, but we have a budget shortfall of like $10 million, how do we?
April might be better timing if we want to alignment with the city budget development.
Bye, Brian.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for coming.
Would you like me to move it?
Yes.
We didn't have much in April anyway. Is anyone right?
And it's really just brainstorming. You make a good point. It's about brainstorming the ideas, start to figure out what would that look like. How the prize look like, so the city doesn't get a little bit blindsided. They're going to get this money and.
Yeah.
I think the reaction was like, great, oh no.
Yeah, great, what do we do?
Yeah, so getting in front of that.
That sounds good. And maybe each of the groups, as we're doing our other work throughout the year, we're like, oh, this thing, and like, let's.
Yeah. Yep.
Or like community needs, like say, Bellhaven, as an example, they seem to be very interested in solar, but the $4.5 million as we've currently allocated it doesn't give any. So that is like an opportunity potentially. Like, let's help get solar to folks in Bellhaven.
Yeah.
So we can kind of just secure it around.
Yeah, and then whatever happens legislatively, if Josh's solar stuff gets passed, if Michael Block gets passed, like there's money, like we've been talking about for a long time,
Yeah.
there's money there. Hopefully, we just have to figure out how to pursue
Okay, fun.
Going back to the spur discussion, I don't know if we made a decision. Do we want to include more in their presentation or leave it at just groundwater? And is that up to us or is that up to them?
Who's got the
I would
relationship?
prefer if it was one.
I have a relationship.
Okay.
Well, if you think.
But I
there's-
think Commissioner Headley was
Oh, well, when,
spearheaded this one.
when Rachel and I talked about it, she said she would reach out to Spur, so I don't have a relationship with
Yeah,
you.
I sent 2 emails and haven't heard back. So if you have a relationship with someone, that could be useful as far as getting them to commit.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Would I invite them to talk about all of their sort of recent publications that are relevant to?
So is the intention to learn, I guess for me, the question would be, do we want to learn about something or do we want to learn about what's available? I mean, if it's about something, I'd rather have 1 or 2 topics. If it's
Yeah.
about what's available, then they can go.
I guess I would go back to what was the original intent of bringing them in. Because maybe my idea to have them talk about other things doesn't really fit with that.
Well, I think a number of us don't know about the various research they've done, programs they have, and I for one would benefit from broader.
Learning about Spur.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that's all cool.
So I want to make a really quick recommendation. How's everybody feel about making a motion? Because we thought we feel pretty good about. I'm just trying to read the room. It feels like we can make a motion to approve subcommittees, approve the So,
Make a motion. I make a motion, yes, to approve the work plan for. As summarized in this document that Rachel has just updated.
Let me write this down too, because I also want you to add in your motion about forming the subcommittees.
Oh, we have to make a motion to actually form the subcommittees. Okay, can it be one motion to approve the plan?
Second.
You're on a roll today.
And form.
Well, that's fine, formative type of things. Which operation has to do,
What's that?
but public performative type of editing.
Yeah, I'm working on the editing and real-time skills. Okay,
so I think we have a first and a second.
so I'll read the motion.
Take a look, yeah.
Motion from Commissioner Kissel and a second from Commissioner Headley LaRocca to approve work plan and form ad hoc subcommittees as outlined in the fiscal year 24-25 work plan document.
Favor. Yeah, let's take a roll call vote.
We don't have to do roll call since everyone's here, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved unanimously.
Yep, all right,
And not only that, we did it one meeting early.
that's good, that is.
Oh,
Oh.
wait, one more, we need one more motion though on this one too. We need to disband your subcommittee.
Oh.
To disband
The work plan.
the work plan.
Second it too.
Like, I mean, here she did it, that's the best part, so.
Okay. Commissioner Headley LaRocca motioned with a second from Commissioner Fleetly, Yopart to disband the work plan ad hoc subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously passed. Thank you.
All right.
Uh,
Just got, I wanted to ask the chair, if I could add a data point for you on your new commission form. Having been involved for a while. Transportation Commission, the Complete Streets Commission used to be Transportation Commission, and it used to be Bicycle Commission. We had many meetings, joint meetings together to discuss things. Then we got together and we decided that everybody was doing separate work. We had a huge unwieldy, large committee, like 14 members for some time. Or it was as the inaugural Complete Streets. And then we decided on the right size. My point to you in saying that is that at some point, we had one more commission already that the city was dealing with, and they haven't had to deal with it. And I don't think they ever added another commission. So there's a little ramp for you to say, hey,
We're gonna.
you should be able to get that back. Give it back, give it back to us.
That's a really good point. And I was more informed on the metamorphosis of ETC, which was beautification, right, climate action. Neighborhood beautification, I think was the original. So I do think there's flexibility. It's good to know we're kind of one in the deficit, but yeah.
Yeah, well, just because the norm has been, we can't give you more commissions because we need a staff member to be involved with, and we don't have a ton of us. It needed to work quite robust. In fact, the bicycle commission existed at the time before you could put them together, because there were grants that you weren't eligible for unless you specifically had a bicycle commission.
That makes sense.
Interesting.
Sure. All right, so item E on the agenda, reports and announcements. So final item here. Now we can hear the reports and announcements from staff and commissioners. Why don't we start with staff?
Sure, I'll go quickly and then Liz has some good announcements. I just wanted to share that there's 2 upcoming events related to sustainability: document shredding on August 3rd from 9 to 12 and an e-waste collection event on September 7th from 9 a.m. to 12, both at the Courtyard 333 Burgess Drive. There'll be announcements in the digest and they're already posted online, but those might be relevant to you and your neighbors.
What was the document shredding date?
August 3rd. Okay, so my announcement is about the zero emission landscaping equipment ordinance going into effect. It went into effect on the first. And we've been filtering through a lot of calls and emails for clarification and reporting and voucher questions. So just so everybody know, report should be made to the non-emergency police line. They're filtering through all that and we're figuring out how to address that. And then applications for round 2 of the Zelly voucher will be opening up next month. And we started an interest list and it filled up in 2 days, so it's 75. So we took it down, we closed it. Anyone else who is interested in the voucher or any other Zelly updates should go to menloparks.gov/subscribe to receive all the notices. So yeah, it's going well.
So the second voucher program goes into effect next month.
Yes.
And what are the dollar values available?
We haven't decided yet, right? Yeah, it's not finalized. It's not finalized, yeah.
But did you say it's already oversubscribed?
Yes. It's the interest list. It's still gonna be first come, first served. Everyone's gonna get an email to apply. So. We have $35,000. Total.
Are there any upcoming city council meetings that we might want to know about?
The city council's on recess right now. So the next meeting will be August 13th and there will be an informational item on the climate action plan progress. So I'll be sure to share that. And then on August 27th, we'll be presenting the climate action plan scope of work update that you all developed. So that would be a good one to attend.
And what's the current date for a study session on reach codes?
September 10th.
That's at city council.
Yes.
And then the Zelly violation, so if someone using a gas powered leaf blower, then the person that's noticing the violation calls this non-emergency line and just reports the address or? Okay.
Yeah, and right now, there's not an immediate plan to give citations. So it is a very friendly visit from a community service officer to leave informational items with the landscaper and the homeowner. And so I would empower folks to use that as kind of educational opportunity. And then once a month or at some other frequency, Liz and I will be sending letters to folks who
Repeat.
yeah, repeat violators, yeah.
So how is it going to work with renter, right?
Yeah.
Well, apartments is one, but the other one is renters. Because a very common situation is you have the landlord is paying the gardener and then the person in the house knows nothing about what's going on.
Yeah, so right now there's not the tension of like who gets the fine or anything. And so the CSO would be speaking to whoever the building occupant is. And we'd be sending the letters to whoever the property owner is. So we'd hope to catch them with the letter, but there definitely is a gap.
All right, following what to updates from.
I was gonna share, August 3rd, the Youth Climate Group, SBYC Harrisville Palm Valley Youth Climate Action is holding their annual leadership summit in Cupertino at the Woodlands Community Center. All are invited. I can share a link. It's just SBYouthClimate.org. I think it's the website that all should attend.
In person?
Yeah, in person,
And the date was what again? I missed it.
August 3rd.
In the evening?
It's from 9 to 4:30, so it's a whole day thing. We have like a networking hour in the afternoon, which would be great for us all to be there at, if you're interested in going.
Saturday.
Yeah.
So I got one quick one. I spent some time with the campaign manager for the Parks Climate Thought. And just for the sake of time, I won't go into too much detail, but I think they're interested in mobilizing networks. Because it's, you know, electrification and all the pieces that we talked about as far as the first part of the climate action plan. So I'm not doing this in a more official capacity. I just wanted to inform you that they're trying to run something on the scale of V, measure V and knocking on doors and getting the word out. It's gonna be a very large campaign. Starting a lot of support from policymakers. So I think they're kind of starting to ramp it up, but I promised her that I think we could mobilize a lot of our personal and professional networks. So, and then if you would like to be actively involved, let me know and I can get you her name. But it's more just an awareness. It's gonna be a big push at the city. So
This is the school one?
it's pretty small. Yeah. So we were talking about, what do they need from the climate side? They're already doing it from the school side and, what would be helpful? So just want to make everybody aware that there's an opportunity there. All right, well, I think going once, going twice, I think we're adjourned. Thanks.
Mhm.